City of stars, are they shining just for me? City of stars. Ba, ba, ba. I don't know the rest of it.
I feel like in Merrily We Roll Along, where Jason Alexander is like, it's not a hummable melody. That's kind of how I feel like when you ask me, like, sing a song from La La Land. I guess I could be like, bump, 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 bump. Like, I just remember like percussion
like
beats
snippets,
and notes.
snippets.
Yeah, but I can't be like, now sing it.
Yeah. I mean, we're all in agreement that this is the Sondheim of movie musicals, and I think that's what you're saying with that sentence, right?
The horror. The horror of that being implied.
Welcome back. Before we even get into it, I have to be honest and upfront and say two things. One,
wait, we're still in banter.
I know.
Okay. I was like, this better be banter.
I'm starting off. This is a PSA. This is a warning. This is an announcement. I did not read the entire trivia page of the IMDb trivia.
Oh my god!
Your one job to read IMDb.
One job.
I wish pages on the internet weren't just endless scrolling and they had like official page numbers, because I think there's like 300 pieces of trivia. Like I was like, this is so long.
Yeah.
So I just stopped halfway through and I was like, this is fine. The other thing I want to say is that unfortunately, I like this movie too much, so I will not be able to engage honestly with this movie. So that's going to be a real problem. I'm so relieved
because I really thought that you were about to be like, I did not watch the movie for today.
No,
I did.
I've been very much looking forward to watching this film.
I have not seen this movie. I'm going to start off the bat. I'm just going to announce.
Start off by saying, I don't know who Ryan Gosling is.
I've actually never watched any of these movies that we've reviewed.
You've done a remarkable job. Yeah,
Molly, you are currently very close to La La Land. You are.
You are like a 2 hours away.
Yeah,
you can't take the train right now because of coastal erosion.
Oh yeah, so probably never again. Certainly not going the other direction.
The coast is blooming. Coastal bloom.
I actually watched this on the plane ride to San Diego.
Wow, how?
Like 4 days ago.
Oh, so you just got there?
Yeah, I got here on almost a week. I came on Friday.
Okay.
Past Friday. Yeah.
Wow, and did it feel different?
Did it feel, Molly?
Did it feel?
I don't know. I think I'm just still getting my bearings here, and I'm staying with my brother and his family, which is great. But I've been here before to visit them, so I think I keep having to try to like remind myself that I'm like moving here and I'm not just here for a visit.
It still feels like I'm visiting right now.
Right. So I think in like a few weeks, and I'm trying to like intentionally go out and explore different neighborhoods and stuff and try to get a better sense of the city. I haven't been anywhere yet that I'm like, oh, this is my vibe. This is my kind of place. But I'm still, hopeful that that'll happen. But I loved that the movie started with like really bright, sunny, shots, and then it goes to winter. And that was like kind of huge as a person who's lived in the life.
Lived in winter.
I was moving to San Diego to be like, whoa, yeah. So it was very reflective. I also
I feel like this would be a great plane movie.
It was a great plane movie, but I have to tell you a little bit more about my experience of watching it, which is that we landed before I finished. So literally,
oh no,
we're in the jazz club.
Oh no!
We cut to Emma Stone in a flashback of earlier in the movie. Right. She's looking at Ryan Gosling.
In the piano.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our descent into San Diego. So I did not know what that flashback was going to do for a solid 5 hours, I'm going to say. I made my way back from the airport. Yeah. I played with my nephews. I had dinner, a whole thing.
Oh my God.
Got ready for bed. Got into bed, pulled up my iPad and watched the last 20 minutes.
And you're
just as Damien and Chazelle wanted you to watch it on an iPad and on a plane.
As it was, as intended.
As God intended.
I feel very much like the artistic integrity and the intention was maintained in the way that I watched this movie.
Oh my God.
That CinemaScope really worked on Molly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Full effect.
That's so
Wow.
funny. What a movie! What of all of the musicals for us to have watched, where you were like, "Oh, I got to pause it right before the end." That's an interesting one to have it happen to.
Yeah, and listeners who have not seen La La Land will know soon when I give the summary the significance of that moment.
Right.
Oh,
But I'm guessing
yes.
some of our listeners probably haven't. But you two were also in Los Angeles just this past weekend.
That's
so...
right.
We
We
were,
were.
it's
So
true.
we were we started our trip up north in Simi Valley. We were there with Ampliverse co-host Ari. It was her wedding, so we were there celebrating. And then went to Anaheim. We took the Amtrak to Anaheim because, you know, Adam is an urbanist and
I'm an
loves
urbanist.
trains.
I don't know if you knew.
I don't know if you
You've
knew
heard.
that that's like his new thing now.
City planning,
City
public
planning.
transit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bike
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So we took the Amtrak to Anaheim, and it really wasn't that bad. It was like 2 hours, but it flew by. Like I barely felt it. That I mean, I took a nap, so that was nice.
Were
But
you going to
Dedicated turning
Anaheim?
lanes.
Were you going to Anaheim to go to Disney?
here's a
No.
kicker: we did not. We
We
went
did
for a
not step
K-pop concert.
Foot on Disneyland.
We did not.
I'm
step
so
foot.
proud of you
Yeah,
two.
we didn't even
I'm
look.
so happy for you and the growth that you've gone
Thank
through.
you. We did walk by, and it was awful. It was packed. It was just.
We were there on a
mess.
Saturday night, and it was
a
very
Saturday.
busy.
There was nowhere to eat. We had to like literally drive away from Anaheim to get food, and it was
Yeah.
still busy at the place we picked. So
Molly, you luckily did get to see the whole movie, so
Yes,
you can
eventually.
succinctly, hopefully, summarize this film. So this is your challenge this week to summarize the plot of La La Land, and your time begins now.
Mia, a struggling actress. Nope.
okay, take two.
This is Hollywood. This is Hollywood. We
Hollywood,
need
it's
different
Hollywood.
takes.
Yeah, we need
gotta give
different takes.
options.
Absolutely,
Right, right.
absolutely.
Yeah, do you want to give me a note on that one?
No, I think
I'm
you
happy
got
to
it.
take your notes. Okay,
I
great. Yeah,
think you'll-
I can do
think
it a
you-
different way.
you'll call me or okay. Yep. Okay. Wait, I can't hear you very well now. Hold on.
Oh, hello. Oh, my mic's
Okay,
off.
yeah.
There we go. Okay. I just pressed it off. Okay.
Can we
Molly,
count?
this is your challenge. For the first time ever.
Yeah, I've never done this before.
Right, never done. It's incredible. Summarize the plot. We should do this to RJ more often. We should give him
Give
3
me
chances.
takes. Yeah. Wait a minute.
You have to summarize the plot of La La Land in 1 minute or less, and your time does begin now.
Mia, a struggling actress, keeps having chance encounters with Seb, a jazz musician who dreams of opening his own club one day. After initially rubbing each other the wrong way, they fall in love and encourage one another's dreams. However, Seb eventually takes a steady job in an old friend's pop jazz band for financial stability, while Mia quits her job as a barista to focus on writing and performing her own one-woman show. The two have a falling out over their disparate pursuits, and Seb ends up missing Mia's opening night because of a commitment with the band. Mia's show has a nearly empty audience, and she gives up on her career, but Seb receives a call from a casting director who saw the show. Seb convinces Mia to take one last audition and tells her she should give up everything to pursue the role if offered. We cut to 5 years later when Mia has become famous. She and her new husband encounter a jazz club that she discovers belongs to Seb. Seb sees Mia and plays her a song that is shown as a dream ballet, showing an alternative version of events where the two stay together through Mia's successes. They give one another a lingering look and part ways.
Wow.
Wow.
With 3 minutes to 3 seconds to
3
spare.
minutes to
Three
spare.
full
Spare.
minutes. 3
I had
seconds.
4 minutes that time? Okay, yeah.
No, you actually went. You time traveled, and you went backwards while you talked. So
Yeah, it was
you
so
went
weird.
3.
Oh.
Great job.
At first, I thought it was funny because you started with after initially rubbing each other, and if you didn't go to the wrong, that was funny.
Mhm.
So that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
my
yeah.
main note. You played the humor there. I think that was
Thank
good.
you.
So that's my.
Oh,
Oh,
we're
yeah,
gonna do.
yeah.
This is
I
the
leaned into
conceit
the
of
bit.
this one.
I
Is
got
we're gonna
body,
do
yeah.
notes.
Yeah,
We're gonna do notes the whole episode.
And the wardrobe choices, was it too much to be dressed as Mia for that summary? Or
I do have a Seb look I can pull out if you'd
oh,
rather.
absolutely. I connected to both roles, and I'd really be happy to
To
try
read
out
for
either
both.
one. Yeah.
And I did prepare for both.
I have a song in my book that I actually think would be really good for Seb if you wanted to hear it, or
I can pull out my saxophone actually if need be.
We'll call you. We'll call you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
So I saw this movie, I should say, in 2016 when it was brand new in theaters. RJ and I saw it together with our friends Robbie and Jesse, who we lived in Orlando at the time. Just to put everything in context, as we all remember, the end of 2016,
No, what happened?
What was
Wait,
going on?
I don't really remember. Before the pandemic, I didn't really assume anything happened.
2016.
Yeah.
Is that a big year?
It was a quiet year, as I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like that energy hung out in the space. But I loved this movie the first time I saw it. I have not watched it since my initial viewing, so I was actually very interested to see if it held up for me. Spoiler alert, it did, and I turned to RJ after 3.5 minutes of watching this film yesterday, and I was like, yeah, it just works. The movie works. I don't know what to tell you. So, yeah, I'm very pro. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, I won't be able to engage earnestly in any criticisms that's lobbied against this film. So we can discuss them, but I just really won't be commenting on them because I can't without sounding crazy. So that's really where I'm at today with La La Land. RJ.
So with Adam, I did see this movie for the first time with him. It was like the like 2017 wider release. So it was like the limited release in just certain cities. And so like we were one of the first people that saw it and really loved it. And as the movie progressed and like it got a wider audience, I just felt like there were other people that it got the like, oh, it was too hyped now that more people saw it and it wasn't actually as good as people said it was. So I like didn't really re-engage in watching it again until now because I was like, well, maybe I am one of those people who like after rewatching it, maybe it wasn't as good. But I still, yeah, I agree with Adam. It still holds up and I still really loved it with my second watch. And I just felt like that first watch, because it was the end of 2016, because it was the famous Oscars where it was put up against Moonlight, and that like became the news cycle from January to March, that like it was just like, is it La La Land or is it Moonlight? If it's La La Land, then that means LA just like loves to suck its own dick, and that will just, you know, will always just do whatever for like movies about LA. If it's Moonlight, then it's like social change. Like it was just like it was just like people just put on like stakes that really didn't need to be put on those two movies, and I felt like it was very unfair for the two filmmakers who were both doing like both movies were very good in their own way, and it just was so unfortunate that like that was the whole conversation because it symbolized like Trump and Hillary all over again, and it was like
somehow it became that.
How did this
like,
become?
Well, if La La Land wins, then Trump has won yet again, and it was like, how did this become the narrative? Where did we go? Okay, anyway, yeah, I mean that's like, how are we ranking art by being like, what is the best movie of the year? Like, what is that? What's the rubric?
And no one piece of art can like hold up all those social expectations on it. Like they're just, I mean, they're not just movies. There's meaning and themes and things that are relevant, but you can't put everything on like a society going in the right or wrong direction based off of which movie wins the Oscars. You know, that's too much responsibility for these art pieces.
Yeah. Molly.
Yeah.
La La Land relationship.
As I referenced, had not ever seen it before, and I kind of intentionally waited to watch it because I obviously knew about it through cultural osmosis, and so I sort of saw that like initial peak and then like backlash to it kind of thing happen. And I feel like when you see that going on, often the best thing is to be like, I'm going to come back to this in a few years when everyone's opinions have just like tempered down. We can just like engage with it as a movie. So I would say that I was pleasantly surprised because of, I think I had internalized a little bit more negativity than I realized about it. If everyone was like really into it, I get why it would feel like too much. But as sort of like a quieter movie, I think it really hits a lot of really great like it was a really good mix of like an homage to old Hollywood without just being for nostalgia. Like it was telling its own story at the same time. So yeah, I thought it was great.
Wonderful.
Wow, what a huge sigh of relief for Adam.
I'm going to be really nervous.
You thought I was going to be like really down on it?
I looked ahead at your notes just to be like, where's Molly on the spectrum?
Molly does that more often now. She's leaving her notes a little sparse.
Molly's a little sparse in her notes.
You keep trying to sneak on what I'm going to say. So
I just wanted to know if I needed to come in hot or not.
Look,
or not.
We are friends, Adam. You can text me if you're feeling real anxiety about it, and I will tell you the truth if you need it. But
okay, we're gonna do another take of that, but I want you to really believe that we're friends when you say it this time.
Oh my god.
They got me, y'all. I don't have any friends.
Jesus.
Oh.
There's some great fish at SeaWorld that you can befriend since you're in San Diego
my
now.
God.
This is actually reminding me of an off podcast conversation I want to have with you guys, but I'm not putting it on. I'm not recording it.
You want to work at SeaWorld?
Good God, no.
Blackfish was a lie.
It's so I went there last time I was here to visit, and I'm so stressed for those animals. Like
Oh yeah.
the fact that they do like concerts there and stuff, I just feel like it can't not stress out the whales. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just too much. I think they're doing a lot to like try to do better or whatever. I'm not saying that you're like a bad person if you enjoy SeaWorld, but for me, it's just I just get worried about it.
Yeah, the concerts are crazy because I didn't know a whale could shred the guitar like that. Like, it's just really
it's
nuts.
really
So
it is
stupid.
really impressive that they've trained them that well, but I just think that like those whales
doing
must be
jazz.
tired. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I love a movie like this because I don't have to do research on the original piece that it comes from because it's an original film. So I can deduct my time of research in like half, basically. So that was nice. So La La Land is directed by Damien Chazelle, who had just directed Whiplash. That was like his most recent project before this.
Another like music movie.
Music drama.
Mhm.
It's also written by Damien Chazelle. It's produced by Fred Berger, Jordan Horowitz, Gary Gilbert, and Mark Platt, Ben's father.
He strikes again.
It stars Ryan Gosling. Oh, sorry, I have to scroll down. It stars Ryan Gosling as Sebastian Seb Wilder. Emma Stone plays Amelia Mia Dolan. John Legend plays Keith. Rosemary DeWitt plays Laura Wilder, Seb's sister. Finn Whitrock plays Greg. And J.K. Simmons plays Bill.
Just keep Simmons.
Just kidding, Simmons.
Just kidding, Simmons.
Cinematography is by Linus Sandgren. It is edited by Tom Cross. The music is by Justin Hurwitz. The lyrics are by Pasek and Paul. So the music is not Pasek and Paul. And I think I finally discovered that I don't like Pasek and Paul's music. Because I was why do I like this one so much, but I don't like any others? And then
what have they done other than Dear Evan Hansen?
Greatest Showman.
Oh.
And they're releasing a new movie this season called Lyle Lyle Crocodile, which we will be watching next year, I'm sure.
What's the other one? What's the one? What's the You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. Christmas Story.
Christmas Story.
Oh,
They did some music for A Christmas Story.
And that's a stage musical. There's not a movie musical version of Christmas.
They did They did a TV version of it
for
Fox. Yeah,
like a live. Sorry. The production company, Summit Entertainment, Gilbert Films, Mark Platt Productions, Imposter Pictures, Black Label Media. It's distributed by Lionsgate. I don't even know if Lionsgate has a logo sound, so we'll figure it out.
It's just a roaring lion. Oh no, that's MGM.
That's MGM.
It's also a lion.
I'll just clip that. If they don't have one, there it is. It debuted at the Venice Film Festival in August of 2016, but obviously didn't actually debut in the States until December 9th, 2016. It had a limited release at first, and then it went wide like Christmas week. Its running time is 128 minutes. The budget was $30 million, and its box office is $448.9 million.
Its budget was $30 million?
Yeah.
That seems really low for like high production that I felt like we watched.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like a cheap movie at all. It looks very expensive to me.
Yeah, but the director didn't have tons of experience before. I mean, he did Whiplash, but that's a pretty small movie as well, right?
And Ryan and Emma it's not like it's like Tom Cruise and like Nicole Kidman. Like, it's not like people at the absolute pinnacle of their...
Yeah, Ryan probably was like...
Because I don't think Ryan had his nomination yet, and Emma wins for this film.
Ryan had nominated. He was nominated for an indie film.
Oh, Lars and the Real Girl.
No, Half Nelson.
Oh.
Fun fact, in high school, I used to be obsessed with Ryan
This is
Gosling
true, I remember
and
this.
watched like
What?
literally all of his films before this. And it was because of Lars and the Real Girl. Like I literally fell in love with him in that
Huh.
movie.
Yeah, that's
Isn't
an
that
the
interesting
one-
one to.
It's the one where
He's
he
like in
with
love
him,
with
huh?
a sex doll.
he's
right?
in
Yeah,
love
sex
he's
doll.
in love with a sex doll, but he's like on the spectrum. So it's and then the
Oh,
town like
layers.
yes, and so the town, because this is the first time they've ever seen him like be social, basically they all treat the sex doll as like a real person. So she's like involved in committees, she like helps like
Yeah.
she has like part-time jobs.
It's a really sweet movie.
It's very sweet. And
Yeah.
then spoiler alert, at the end when Lars like basically like the relationship like has to end, they all basically like play along too that like she's
Mhm.
sick and that yeah, and they have like a funeral, and it's literally it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's so good. But yeah, I literally fell in love with there was a behind the scenes video filming of that, and he did like a bit where he was like taking the mic off from the like the lapel, and like you saw his abs a little bit, and I literally was like, oh no, I think I like this man in a different level now. And then that's when it
all connected.
all connected.
The pieces of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
You're the only music theater person who has a crush on Ryan Gosling, so I don't know,
because you
where
know
this is coming
while
from.
while everyone was crushing on little wannabes like Jeremy Jordan, we have real men like Ryan Gosling.
How dare you slander Jeremy Jordan to my face in this way?
In this way.
in this
In
manner.
this manner.
Well, I could do it in a different way if you'd like. Could I?
Can we get another take of that?
Would you like me to do a different take?
I'd like you to do it, but I want you to do it like
You both directed 12
before you
weeks
said it.
experiences,
You
so
got
yeah.
you got a phone call from your mom to tell you that your childhood dog has to be put down.
Oh my god.
I want to see his range in a real way. Do you know what I mean?
I want to see the
In a real
discovery.
I'm taking out a makeup wipe, but I'm wiping makeup off your face.
Jesus Christ.
I want to see the real you.
So stupid.
Oh my god.
Bradley Cooper is canceled, just so you know. Just for me. Just personally, I've canceled him. Not the rest of society.
Are you
but
referencing
the Lady Gaga thing from Star is Born?
yeah.
Star is
Star is
Born.
Born.
Yeah.
He's secretly gay too.
That's the rumor.
That's
You
the
think?
rumor.
That's the rumor. We're not going to spread that on this podcast.
No. We would
no.
never speculate about anyone's sexuality on this podcast.
No. Damien Chazelle went to Harvard for undergrad. He'd always been into musical films. He was like a drummer, I guess, in a band. The
Cool.
band he was in, the singer is the guy who sings in the like 80s cover band. at the
Oh,
party.
cool.
Oh, that's
Which is-
fun.
See, if that's the thing you do with your friends when you all of a sudden like get to do a cool movie, you'll be like, I'm gonna put you in the best bit in the movie.
Yeah. So he wanted to write an old movie musical, but like grounded in reality, allegedly. I don't know why I said allegedly. That's what he did. He wrote
Jeez.
it.
Well, there you go.
Allegedly.
Apparently,
it's
there's
grounded
realism
reality.
in this field.
So he wrote a senior thesis with his friend Justin Hurwitz about a Boston jazz musician, and the movie was called Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench, and it was inspired by like 1920s city symphony films, where it's like celebrates the city that the story is taking place in.
Mhm.
So then when they ended up relocating to LA after college, they like kept writing it and they switched the setting from Boston to LA. So
Hmm.
that's how we get La La Land specifically. So it was like shopped around for a while. Nobody wanted to take a chance on it because it's like a huge musical with like a lot of set pieces and all this stuff. And musicals in general are very expensive to film. So originally Focus Features was like, okay, well, we'll consider doing it, but we need you to make some changes. So the changes they wanted him to make originally were that they wanted him to be a rock musician instead of a jazz musician.
Mm.
They didn't want as much of an elaborate opening as what is currently in the film, and he had to cut the ending, so he had to like make them end up together. And so
Boo.
he just was like, no, I'm not doing any of that, and so like
Yeah.
was like, I'll just take a break. And I like that the idea that he was like, I'll just wait and I'll end up down the line, I'll bring it back out. So he ends up doing Whiplash, which we've referenced already, but Whiplash is basically a drama about a kid, like a high school student, and his like music teacher. And it's like a very intense drama about like kind of like the mix of
perfection,
generation
yeah.
and like musicality and artistry and
J.K. Simmons,
like is in love with jazz, so you get that again.
and
in that.
he won the Oscar,
And he won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for it. So because of Whiplash, he then has all this like hot buzz around him. So he starts shopping it around again and finally gets some producers to sign on to the project, and then it gets distribution from Lionsgate. So that's the story and how the movie was made. Other than that, I really don't have anything interesting. Casting, Seb was originally supposed to be Miles Teller, who plays the student in Whiplash, so he was going to use him again. That fell apart due to long contract negotiations, and he just finally pulled out. So they got Ryan Gosling instead. Ryan Gosling did not know how to play the piano prior to this film, and he learned in 6 weeks.
Oh my God.
He practiced for 2 hours a day. He only knows like how to play
the things
parts
he
he
needs
needed
to
to play.
Yeah.
But everything in this movie is him actually playing it. And like the craziest part is like,
what do they feed these children in Canada that they're super serious
in
the Mickey Mouse Club? That now they're like super soldiers.
He I think it's crazy because like he looks like he is like playing. He's also acting while he's playing it. Like that's the craziest part.
Yeah.
He looks like an insane jazz musician.
I mean, I would love to get the opinion of someone who like plays piano to know if it's convincing to an expert eye, but certainly to a novice eye, it's like amazing.
Yeah. It reminds me of how in Call Me by Your Name, Timothy learned to play the guitar and he learned Italian and French for the film. And I
haven't seen that movie.
I own it. I saw it alone. I saw it by myself, and then it was like a matinee. It was like a 2:00 movie screening on like a Wednesday because I had the day off, and it was me and like 3 other gay men who were all alone, all of us individually sitting around a theater, weeping, crying. It was really wild. It's a great movie.
Okay.
It's a shame Armie Hammer's in it. We're moving on. So Mia was originally supposed to be played by Emma Watson.
Emma.
That would have been different.
That would have been very different. It definitely would have been a different Mia. It would have been a different movie. Yeah. So she drops out to do Beauty and the Beast. So Emma Stone gets in here and does this. The irony being that later in their careers, Emma Stone is cast as Meg in Little Women, but ends up having to drop out because she has to do promo for The Favorite. So Emma Watson ends up playing Meg in Little Women.
And I like that. I think those are all correct.
I think everything happened the way it's supposed to.
I think those are they played. They ended
up Watson being cast in Beauty and the Beast.
Other than Beauty and the Beast being created.
Yeah. Other than all live action Disney movies, good choices.
Say that.
The other thing that's ironic about Beauty and the Beast is that Ryan Gosling pulled out of Beauty and the Beast to do La La Land because he was supposed to be Gaston.
Oh.
I do like that. That would have been good as well.
That would have been fun. But I did like Luke, what's-his-face, as Gaston.
He's great.
Do you know what? Actually, I'm dragging Disney live-action remakes, and I've never seen any of them, so...
I think that's for the best.
There's a couple that are... Cinderella's really
I would
good.
say Cinderella is the best one, and that was the first one they did. Like, the first... in this new era.
I'm literally
I like the Jungle Book.
I'm just expressing secondhand opinions on all of these things.
Yeah. Just like...
That's how
Adam's done for
like
every
I've-
podcast.
Yes, that's how literally... Yeah.
I will want me to talk about what second wave feminism is, or do you want me to go into that?
Yes,
again?
but do it in the way
that'd
as
be
if
good.
you also just got a call from your mom saying that you're. Let's really bring in the stakes. I was also very in college, more specifically, I was like a huge Emma Stone fan because I just felt like I was just. She was like
I've never seen a bad Emma Stone performance.
She was just so good at like everything she did.
Yeah.
Did I watch the movie where she played an Asian woman? No, and you know what? That's for the best because we.
And that's why they've all been good.
And
from
that's
your
why
perspective.
they've all been good. Yeah.
Well, just because she may have still been good in the
That's
movie.
true.
She just was shouldn't have been cast or shouldn't have accepted.
Right.
But I've always turned in a very good performance.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I was a little disappointed with her in this movie only because, again, it was like so much hype around her performance in it that I think I probably had like expectations that couldn't have been met by anything.
Right.
But don't you have a story about Emma Stone going to your high school, RJ?
Yes, Emma Stone went to the girls' school. And
You didn't go to the girls' school?
I did not go to the girls' school, unfortunately. No. But she talks about this on her SNL when she hosted SNL, but she did a PowerPoint presentation to her parents as to why she should not finish high school and go to LA to just pursue acting, and they did it. She was also like very active in like the local Phoenix theater scene.
Oh,
too.
booming.
Yeah, booming. So like, you know, like the children's theater, like, you know, those kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she did like all those shows and stuff. So
I just was thinking about that story in the first scene of the movie when she's like in the car going to the audition, blah, blah,
Yes.
blah, that I was like, I mean, it's literally the life of every actor that we've ever seen in a movie, but I was thinking about the fact that you had actually told me a story of her going to LA as a young person and
yes,
stuff.
and that's and I think that's why I mean, I don't want to, you know, whatever, but that's why I really liked her performance, because I'm like, you can tell that this is someone who has gone through what Mia has gone through. So
I mean, in all of the stuff that I read, they just kept talking about how she like drew on her experiences of like her first couple of years, where she was just like, she would go to auditions and like say a line and they'd be like, okay, thank you, and she'd be like, cool, have a great day. But my favorite one was do you know the scene in the movie where there's like the audition and the person comes in to take the lunch order and she's like crying and she like doesn't know how to like continue? That actually apparently happened to Ryan Gosling in an audition once. He was like crying in an audition and somebody started ordering their lunch out loud and he was like
played. Yeah, it was played so perfectly in the movie. You felt every moment of the like, what do it, like the way that she conveyed that was so good. Yeah.
It's so funny. So Damien Chazelle, really, in order to emulate those old Hollywood movie musicals, a lot of them have really long extended dance number sequences where it's like shot in one take. So his goal was to shoot as much of the like film in one take as possible. It's not like the whole movie is not a oneer. It's not like The Birdman or anything like that. But he tried to do really long takes as often as possible. So, for example, like in the Prius dance sequence, where they're like shooting on that like hill at magic hour. So they were only able to shoot for 30 minutes because you only have that sunlight from 7:20 to 7:50.
Wow.
So they did it over the course of 2 days. They did 5 takes, and only the 4th take was used. But like each time they would like finish the take, run back to their spots to start over, and the assistant directors would like come and like wipe their sweat off, and then they would just like start again.
Wow.
Which is like super cool. There's a lot of beautiful cinematography in this film. Like this film is so, just like watch it on mute because it's so pretty to look at. The Another Day of Sun, which is the opening sequence, they did shut down the freeway. It's apparently, I don't know anything about the LA freeway system other than it's bad. So they did shut down a ramp for that. That's not CGI. That is them in actual space. And it was originally going to be on this flat part of the freeway, but he really wanted the like shot of like the city in the background sprawling out around them. And so Damien Chazelle said that the freeway is supposed to be akin to the yellow brick road leading to Oz, which is very sweet. We love a reference, and he employs a lot of them in this film. But I don't think any of them are like, only really at the end do I feel like the references are like beat you over the head, if that makes sense.
Yeah. One of the articles that I read for today from, what's the person's first name? Laura Rodriguez Arnaiz, I think is their name. And she pointed out that the opening sequence, they're all stuck in the traffic, and then in the final scene when they go to the jazz club, they pull off of the ramp, and how it's like metaphorically like she's one of the only people who can get off of that, like she actually successfully makes it. And I was like, oh, I didn't catch that. I really like that idea.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And in the audition, which is the only other one I really wanted to talk about, the audition song where Emma sings The Dreamers Who Dream, or whatever the song is.
Here's to the
ladies who lunch.
Aren't they a gas?
Here's to the mess that we make. I just know it's one line.
Yeah. Anyway, in the audition song, she sang it not a cappella, but there was no in-room sound. She had an in-ear piece, and then Justin Hurwitz played the piano with her. So he was like following her lead,
which is okay in this one instance, Tom Hooper, but
right,
not
because
for
it's
every
such
song.
It's such an emotive song. Like it's a song.
Yeah.
It was
like
earned.
It's the exact same as like why it worked in a movie that we obviously haven't watched, Les Miserables.
Yes, can't wait to talk about that one when we get to that movie.
Why it works for Anne Hathaway, because that song is so like
raw and vulnerable,
emotional, emotional. A new word.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I have. Let's talk about the Academy Awards, because this movie is tied with Titanic and All About Eve for having the most nominations for a film ever at 13 awards. Of the three, it is
That
the
is
only
nice
one
that
that
the
has not won Best Picture.
That is nice that those three movies, two of them, well, one of them is a musical and one of them is like, I don't know, a canonically gay movie. So that's nice to know that the queers can really pick some good ones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, gay people are not known for having good taste otherwise.
Yeah,
So
honestly,
it's good that we represent in film.
Finally.
So this movie, I'll read what it was nominated for first, and then I'll read what it actually won after. So it was nominated for Best Sound Mixing, Best Sound Editing, Best Original Song for Audition, parentheses, The Fools Who Dream, close parentheses. That's the name of the song. Best Film Editing, Best Costume Design, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor, and Best Picture. We'll talk about Best Picture in just a moment. However, this movie did win Best Production Design, Best Original Song for City of Stars, which I would contest is not a song and is actually a motif, but that's neither here nor there.
Fighting words.
Best Original Score, Best Cinematography, Best Actress, and Best Director from Damien Chazelle, the youngest winner in Oscar history, winning the award at the age of 32.
Whoa.
So we have 1 year left to get it all wrapped up.
Excuse me, I have 2 years. I'm only 30, so
I am too. I was more speaking for RJ.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, when I
to make him feel better.
when I do hit 32, guess who's gonna hit the emotional aftermath of me? You know.
Oh, who is gonna have to deal with the brunt of it?
Clean up the
Yes,
mess.
who's cleaning up this mess at 32?
Great. I can't wait. How fun. So the Academy Awards. So I would say one of the most iconic things about this movie is that this film was awarded, quote unquote, Best Picture at the Oscars, and then about what is it? I think it's 4 minutes in.
Wait a minute.
Moonlight, you guys won Best Picture.
Moonlight, you guys won Best
I did
Picture.
put in the clip, Molly, if you wanted to refresh yourself on that moment.
Great.
It's under your cabaret link.
What's the love of my life, Ali Lowy? I'm up here because of you. I love you so much. To my family, maman, papa, Jeff, hommage, vous adore. Matt Pluff, you kicked this off. And Damien Chazelle, we're standing on your shoulders. We lost, by the way, but, you know.
Guys, I'm sorry. No.
It was when the producer
There's a
said we
mistake.
lost, by the way. We're
Moonlight,
like,
you guys
huh?
won Best Picture.
Moonlight won. Come on, this is not a joke. This is not a joke. I'm afraid they read the wrong thing.
This is not a
You
joke.
can hear everyone in the
Moonlight has
audience
won
going,
Best Picture.
what?
Yeah.
Moonlight, Best Picture.
This is so iconic, and like obviously it would have been way better if Moonlight had gotten their full moment.
Yeah, their
and
full
then-
moment.
Yeah. Because for the rest of history, it will feel like they kind of shared this moment with
Yeah.
La La Land. I like both of these movies, so whatever. But it's very sad. So let's just we have to talk about how it happened. So there are cards on both sides of the stage for the presenters, depending, because they don't know which side they're going to come in and out. So they have a double set for each side. So the Pricewaterhouse Cooper auditors, who are the people who do the counting of the official ballots, and they have the official list of awards. Apparently one of them was taking selfies with stars backstage, and so wasn't really paying attention. So when they handed off the Best Picture envelope, they actually handed off the other Best Actress envelope. So when it was opened, and the card had the Oscars at the top, it said in the middle, La La Land, Emma Stone, really big letters. And then on the very small letters on the bottom, it said Best Actress. So Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway get up and open the card. There's a moment at the beginning where Warren Beatty looks at it for a moment, and the audience kind of laughs because they think he's doing a bit. He's drawing out the applause, whatever. He's actually just confused because he sees that it says Emma Stone. It shouldn't say Emma Stone. It should say the producers' names. So Faye Dunaway takes the card and is like, La La Land. and just like runs with it. First of all, I love that Faye Dunaway has never apologized. She doesn't care. Like there were reports from that night where she was like backstage while everything was going on, like drinking a glass of champagne and being like, who cares? This isn't real. Like, yeah, she is a nut job and
Unbothered.
iconic. So I love
amazing.
it. So then everybody comes up to give speeches, and then the scurrying begins of the auditors realizing that the award has been misannounced. So they get on to correct it, and then everybody they swap casts, and everybody comes up, and Moonlight is finally able to accept their award, much to everybody's shock and surprise.
I just remember the crowd shot of everyone just like, just like fully agog.
Remember when this was the craziest thing that had ever happened at the Oscars?
Remember when we were making Will Smith references before, as it was
I've done
happening?
that so many times. There was just a podcast I was re-listening to where I talked about loving Olivia Wilde, and just like no mention of anything that's happened recently with Olivia Wilde. I'm so actually grateful because we kind of took a break from recording everyone because I had a lot of different travel and stuff going on, and the fact this is going to come out so much closer to when we're releasing it.
In like a week.
I hope Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone don't do anything in the next like 7 days.
Please.
Truly, I think that they will, based off of my karma. Anytime I express a positive opinion about somebody.
Do you want to say anything
I don't know if
pro
it was
Brad Pitt? Because
I don't
that's
know
what
if it
I
was
did
you.
in our podcast recording earlier this week, and then it came out the like allegations of like him like choking one of his kids once, and we had to scrub it from the record before the episode went out.
So I don't think it's you, Molly. I think it's Adam.
Okay.
It's me.
Adam, I think you should take accountability for that fact.
I should, and I won't. I won't.
And when you do take accountability, can you take it in a way where discovered some new information?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the week.
Also, Molly's Zoom freezes every time we do the bit.
So sorry.
Every time we do the, you take it another?
Take another take.
Take another take bit. So maybe we stop doing that for the episode.
Okay. Anyway. So the week this goes wide, which it's in 200 theaters, so it's not fully wide yet, but it's like the official opening day for the Wikipedia. So Moonlight, or I'm sorry.
Wow, you just did it, Faye Dunaway.
La La Land is in number 7 with $4 million, $4,102,091. Number 6 is Manchester by the Sea, which what's his name won the Oscar for? What's his name?
Casey Affleck.
Casey Affleck.
Affleck. Sorry.
Affleck.
Casey Affleck.
Afflecked. Casey Afflicted.
Casey Afflict. Oh.
Number 5 is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Number 4 is
what movie is that? I'm
Never
not
heard of
familiar.
it.
Never heard of it. That was written by Shakira, is that right?
Yeah. That's the one where she didn't pay her taxes on what she made for the movie, so that's why Spain came after.
We can't name any celebrities. There's always something that's attached to any celebrity.
No, but see, here's the thing.
Do we want to say anything positive about Joe Rowling while we're in the area?
I think what we should do is try to name all celebrities, because then it's like it'll be too diffuse, and then nothing bad can happen. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So just like throwing Sid Charisse just like for fun.
Yeah. 4 was Collateral Beauty. I remember this movie, and this is only 6 years ago, so I feel a bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
Number 3 was Office Christmas Party. Number 2 is Moana, and number 1 is Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, which I also saw in theaters.
But these aren't necessarily saying it was also their opening weekends, right? Like Rogue One
and Collateral Beauty, it's their opening weekend.
Oh wow.
That's why they're in yellow.
Oh, okay.
So technically La La Land is in its second week because it was in 5 theaters the weekend before, but I did not count that because it would be silly too. Great. We can move on to talking about La La Land.
La La Land.
La La Land. Rawr, rawr. Molly, what are your thoughts on La La Land as an art piece, as a piece of art, as a piece of media?
I mean, I did say that I liked it at the beginning.
Yes.
I will say that if we're starting at the top of the movie,
Sure.
so there's this whole thing where, particularly in the opening scene, everyone is wearing these very bright colored, mostly primary colored outfits, very monochromatic, and I hate that choice. One of the articles I read talked about how Emma Stone's character starts in those really bright colors, and then she kind of gets more muted, and it's sort of like symbolic of her like adjusting to the industry, kind of being accepted by the people around her. And I like that as an idea, but the starting out with those primary colors it's so community theater to me. And I think I am supposed to like cringe a little bit, right, at the people in the cars of like, there is something embarrassing about being that naive that you'll succeed, but it's like a little too much for me personally.
Sure. I do remember the first time I watched this being like, wow, they really like are doing
musical
primary color moment. But I don't know, it didn't bother me.
It definitely helped once they were against like the magic hour colors, like the cooler colors of the sky, where I was like, okay, then the primary colors kind
For
of
some reason
have them stand out a little bit more. Like it worked better on the party for me rather than this opening number.
Oh, the four of them when they're dancing down the street before they go to the party and they're like jewel tone. It's so cute. This movie, and I thought about this while we were watching it last night, and I didn't say this to RJ, and maybe it'll make no sense, and I haven't really fully fleshed it out, but this movie feels like an Obama administration film to me in the way that there's like, there's not really like dark cynicism in this movie. Like it's still pretty positive, and like even with the bittersweet ending, everybody still kind of gets what they want, and there's like this feeling of hope that like your dreams actually can come true. And I just like, what since this movie has come out that's been like, you can do it? Has anything come out since then?
Well, there's still, I mean, there's a lot of kind media, which we've talked about before on this podcast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, things are so ugly politically, let's just make things about people being nice to each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
But maybe not hopefulness about dreams or like the future. It's not really, there's not a lot of like the future will be good stuff now. It's sort of like, let's just be nice to each other for the moment. All we
Before
can
it
do
all
is just like kind of be kind on our way out, I think is kind of what it feels like right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know if like the colors have anything to do with it. It just feels like a movie that's like 2012 to 2016, and obviously came out in 2016, so that's like almost stupid to even say, but like I don't know, something about that like the second term of the Obama administration is very like we're doing so good, and like we're gonna focus on like LA, and we're not gonna like what's going on in Memphis, what's going on in Boise. Like I'm not criticizing this film for not being about Memphis and Boise. I just feel like it's like the thing that after the 2016 election where everyone was like, liberals were so navel-gazy that we were so shocked that there were a bunch of people who didn't like the direction the country was going. I'm using that in air quotes. I think this movie to some extent is a little bit emblematic of that, just in the like, it's about like people who want to make movies in LA. Like, and then again, this is not a movie that has to represent all things at all times. It's just something I was thinking about while I was watching it. I was like, oh, this is so funny to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fully putting on a context of this film that like is not intended.
You're putting a lot on it in the way that we were just
So we were just talking about how people were doing
Academy
that.
Awards.
Yeah.
I see your point. I am so sick of being told that I like live in a bubble or whatever. Especially as someone who like, I guess now I live in Southern California, but like as of, a week ago, but as a person who's lived in the Midwest for almost my entire life, the idea that the fact that people made La La Land is like why I didn't understand why people voted for Trump, like doesn't really map onto my life experience. So I'm kind of, I know what you're saying about the time period and how our outlook was different, but I also I'm just kind of done with the whole like liberals were too in a bubble to see it coming thing at the same time.
But I also think that that's your lens now, 2022, having to go through Trump and the pandemic, of just like, this felt like the most celebratory optimism, like last real reigning like example of that. Before
it's Adam's 2022, like
yes, it's
looking
his
back,
gaze looking back.
I think
And I think also it's the maybe it's just thematic in this specific song. So they're all stuck in this horrible traffic. They're going nowhere, and yet they're all like, "We're just living in LA," like da da da, and like and that's the charm of the movie. That's the whole point. That's why it has to start with the song, because it has to get you into like what the movie's trying to do. Yeah. And it's really sweet, and it's a great song, and it's a fun dance. Like it's good. I'm not even saying it's not good. I just like there's just like a thematic thing that's very funny to me that they obviously didn't intend, but like looking back with different eyes, you can be like, oh, the idea of like ignoring your immediate troubles to be like, but it's all fine.
But it's all fine because we're pursuing our dreams, living in LA.
Right. And we have already identified that romanticism is a theme that we want to discuss.
It's almost like I knew where this conversation was headed.
Almost like you're directing us towards it as like some sort of a host of the conversation. What? I do though. I want to say one more thing about the whole like liberals being in a bubble thing, because I'm thinking about it more, and I feel that I need to put this on the internet.
I voted for Donald Trump in 2016.
I love Christian Walker. No.
That's my girl. That's my Judy.
I didn't know why you brought him up. And then I had to go look and like about the whole abortion situation, which I was like, this is crazy. Anyway. It cut out again.
What's your go ahead.
What's your take, Mom?
Yeah, it's wild that man exists. I just want to say, I didn't expect Trump to win the election because he is a cruel person. And I didn't think that the majority of Americans were cruel people. Yeah. And if you want to tell me that that was my bad for some reason, fine. But I'm happy that I lived in a bubble before Trump was elected, because knowing that wouldn't have changed the outcome. Me being less shocked by him winning wouldn't have made him not win, I don't think, unless you think that there's something that I personally could have done to persuade more people proactively against voting for him. So I will take you had too good a time watching La La Land criticism, and I will say fine. Because it's a nice movie, and I like it, and I don't think I don't think that that's anybody's fault. So that's my take. Thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk.
I mean, yeah, it's true. Can we listen to I do like this song a lot. Can we listen to a little bit of Another Day of Sun?
I think about that day. I left him at a Greyhound station west of Santa Fe. We were 17, but he was sweet and it was true. Still, I did what I had to do, 'cause I just knew. Summer Sunday nights, we'd sink into our seats right as they dimmed out all the lights. A technicolor world made out of music and machine. It called me to be on that screen and live inside each scene.
Without a nickel to my name, hopped a bus, here I came. I could be brave or just insane. We'll have to see.
Let's talk about this film and romanticism. So Molly had touched on this earlier, because I had led her like a horse to water. And she
bamboozled me.
I swindled her. And I think that one of the things I really like about this movie that I think works really well is that I find these two characters, Seb and Mia, while obviously different people, I like that they have similar trajectories in that they both like really idolize things of the past that like have fallen out of favor in the way that they were done, and are trying to get back to that to some degree. And I like that. I think in some movies, this is more given to one character over the other. Like if they're trying to match them, it's not always matched. And I do think that in this movie, they are pretty even through the whole thing. I think there's like I think at the end of the dinner table sequence, which we'll talk about in a bit, there's like one thing where he's the one that fully crosses the line into being like bad guy, capital B, capital G. But other than that, I think like they're both pretty even, and you can, as an audience member, can see their point of view. So like everything, I don't know. I like that about this movie, and I like that the romanticism leads the romance to kind of fall apart, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a tagline. I think it's
top
really
of the dome,
nice.
baby, top of the dome.
I think it's really nice how you see why they are drawn to each other through that fact that they both have this romanticization of Hollywood past or, you know, history of an art form, but then have, you know, their separate things that are the art that speaks to them, and which kind of helps it be like there's not like a competitive nature between them or something, the way that they're both actors say it would be. I think, though, I don't know, it's interesting. I kind of have this question of, are they equally diluted? And do we blame one more than the other? I have a lot of questions about like the dinner scene and the argument and the question of like how they pursue things that I just want to unpack. And I think that it's a credit to the movie that I'm thinking about it in this way. I'm not saying like I have questions like it was unclear. I mean, like, I think there's subtlety to it.
RJ?
Which I think like throughout the movie, I really loved the writing of it because it is so compelling, of like a true honest look at those subtle pushes and pulls in order to try and like make it in the industry, but also in a bigger sense to just like making your art your career or like your achievement to success, which like I've had many conversations about that with like peers and my therapist about like, isn't it crazy how like we gauge how like our passions and our art once it makes money for us? Like it's like that idea of like how, what, you know, like always questioning why you're doing it, and like it's that thing of like my goal for my art is to make it like my job or something, you know, like that, where it's like because I can do my art like every day and like it's my source of like, because that is the dream. But then like when put into like in a realistic sense, like how I feel like the characters have had to like,
well, it's because we've also been fed this like capitalist myth of being like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's like, that isn't real. Like, even people who love their job still find aspects of their job that they're like, this is work.
Yeah.
I'm assuming every actor on the face of the earth hates doing press junkets because it's work. It's like the part of the job where you're like, ugh, I don't like doing this. But you do it anyway because you like everything else about it.
Sponsor our podcast.
Please sponsor our podcast.
Please sponsor
our podcast.
But also that idea of like, if you are a working actor, you're always constantly looking for the next bigger and better project. And like once you've, and like to people watching you, like, oh my God, you know, La La Land could be the big movie where, you know, like Emma won an Oscar for, but then like an actress like Emma could still want to be like, okay, now I want more. I want more. Or like, I want to do other things because now this has become a job and I find creative passion somewhere else too. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's that idea of like making your art, your passions a job. And then like that gets murky of like, what are you doing it for? Do you even like what you're doing? And I feel like that, especially in the dinner scene, that, you know, obviously that's what Mia brings up to Seb, as like, do you like what you're doing? That kind of drives their like rift up, like apart, like even bigger.
I want to say before we get to the dinner scene that I think they do such a good job of making you fall in love with them as a couple and rooting so hard for their romance. And the primary way they do that is through the Prius scene, as we used to call it.
Yeah.
So it's like a classic music theater.
Classic.
This is a song about how I'm not in love with you, and what a shame it is that I'm not in love with you, which I just love.
We eat it up every single time.
I eat it up, and I ate it up here because I was like, oh, they know their stuff. Like it was this reference that I was like, you love this genre and you like care about it and you're like doing the classic thing. And
wow, you mean directors can direct a movie musical and like musicals?
Directors who are enthusiastic about the source material? Oh
wow.
But also, I think too, we are all people in this podcast who, if you don't understand every single reference in this film, you get a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I think to this film's credit, there are many things you would never have to get referentially to still appreciate and enjoy this film.
Yes.
It is not like
a RuPaul's Drag Race episode where it's all references.
Or like that's the only way to really enjoy it is if you're a full cinephile, because it's like shot for shot. I think
Yeah.
this movie is so loving to old Hollywood while also being its own film and feeling separate.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I just thought that the song itself was really good. I thought that their dance was really beautiful. That the lighting, I mean, it was so worth it with the shooting in these
30-minute
little
increments,
chunks
yeah.
because it was just beautiful. So the setup of the scene is that he's walking her to her car. They do this whole song and dance number. He takes her all the way to the car. She says, "Do you want to ride back to your car?" And he says, "No, I'm right up there." And then we see him turn around and he walks back all the way to the party. He was parked right in front. I
know.
died.
I know.
I
I know.
was deceased.
I know. I remember I had forgotten that happened. So when I watched it again last night, I was like, oh my God, that is such you can tell if you were in that table read and you saw that, you can hear everyone just that is so good. That's just
It was the moment that I was like, whatever this movie wants to do next, I'm in. I was 100% there for it.
And it's so show not tell. It's
Yes.
so,
yes, exactly.
It's so the best parts of movie making and what makes it so different from crafting a play.
Especially because the whole setup of the, oh, well, what a shame we're not in love with each other song. I was expecting, because it's part of the genre, whatever. And I expect that song to be, it's over the course of the song that they fall in love. And the fact that it reveals that he was falling in love before the song even started, it's something magical about the fact that you thought you knew when the moment happened. Oh no, it happened earlier before you even suspected. Oh, it's so good.
A lovely night. A lovely night.
A lovely night.
A lovely night.
A lovely night.
How lovely.
Lovely night.
How lovely.
Well, let's listen to a little bit of A Lovely Night just to, place us in the plot.
Other girl and guy would love this swirling sky, but there's only you and I, and we've got no shot. This could never be. You're not the type for me, and there's not a spark inside. What a waste of a lovely night.
You say there's nothing here. Well, let's make something clear. I think I'll be the one to make that call.
But you'll call.
And though you look so cute in your polyester suit,
It's wool.
you're right, I'd never fall for you at all. And maybe this appeals to someone not in heels.
Listening to this, so this is the first song that we hear both of them sing together. And I remembered the parts of the critiques was that they're not great singers. And I think we even knew that coming into the movie.
Yeah.
So I remember being like,
There were clips in the trailer. It wasn't fully emphasized in the trailer, but you could tell that it wasn't going to be I mean, I think even when they cast Emma Stone, people were like, can she sing?
Can she sing?
Which was crazy because he cast her because he saw her in Cabaret. But anyway.
that's true. But it wasn't never did I think in the movie oh, I wish they were better singers. I felt like it was it was exactly what it needed to be.
And you never think they need to be better singers, and you never think they need to be better dancers because they're not Fred and Ginger. They're not trying to do Fred and Ginger. They're millennials who watch those movies growing up or whatever, and just get swept up in that feeling.
Yeah.
How
dance and song should be inspired in a musical.
But also, they're not supposed to be at the echelon of their craft either. They're still struggling artists. So I like the grittiness and the raw nature. And in shooting it, Damien was thrilled when there were breaks in their voice or they stumbled over their feet a little bit because it made it more true to who these characters were in their lives at this moment. And it makes the performance so much special because every take is unique because it's that one.
It feels very character forward, that it's about the acting and the experience of the moment for the characters and not about performing a musical number. But I also think that they're genuinely trying, and I think that's where, again, Tom Hooper, I think that people get too into that and then they try to not even push people to do it right. What's good about it is that they're trying to do it exactly right, but then we see the little cracks, not that it's oh, throw it all out the window. They
Right.
hit the perfect balance.
Yeah. The whole Prius scene is so good.
I feel like it's this scene that really shows them just how
I hate her shoes. I have to be honest, I hate her shoes.
I love how they act. They act so naturally. Like their acting style is so grounded. It doesn't feel like you're watching actors.
My doctoral dissertation is on the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, because it is like, it's not even steamy and sexy and hot. I just like,
you can tell they
root for
love
them so hard.
Yeah.
And I think because you like both, you said something really wonderful, which is they set up.
Wow, Adam.
Don't get used to it. They set up their, like, you watch them bloom and blossom, and that's what helps you fall in love with them. But they also do such a wonderful job setting up who they are individually before they like start to become a thing.
Those scenes before Ryan Gosling
With his sister,
before he meets Heather in the piano bar, like it's like I was like, that tells me everything I need to know about Seb. Like I literally know exactly who this man is before they like meet.
there are so many there are so many things I love about this movie. I can't even I don't even know if I can distill it into a podcast, to be quite honest. I would have to like go frame by frame through this and be like, here's what's great about this. So
we
just
give this man 2 hours of time,
And it's
to
not
express his
white
feelings.
My God.
Still
I
not
can't
enough.
believe
White
that you would
men-
ask me to contain myself to merely this format of a
I didn't even
podcast.
say that about West Side, which is so crazy. Anyway, I'll just say some quick things. So I love, again,
In the second one, I love
in
this.
show versus tell, right? Like you go to Mia's house and you see her with her like or her roommates or whatever, and she has all these old Hollywood posters up. So without even expressing via words like who she is, it's like, oh, she's in love with old Hollywood. Like that's what she's enticed by. She still thinks it's like 1947 and she can get discovered sipping a malted milk at like the diner down the street or whatever. Cute, great. And then you get Ryan with his sister, or I shouldn't say Ryan, I should say Seb, that's the character name. Seb with his sister, and like explaining his whole backstory of like how he really wants to save Jazz, which we'll have to talk about, but trying to save Jazz and how important it is to him. And immediately you're like, oh, these two people who just like one flipped the other the bird on the freeway, which is such a funny bit that they start this movie with. It sets up the like bit of Singing in the Rain where he ends up in the car with her and they like have this little fight at the beginning of when they meet, so that by the time they get to it, they're like in love, and it like works. It tracks and maps so well.
I'm so happy you got to see Singing in the Rain before we.
It made this so much better. The sequence when they're walking through the Warner Brothers lot and they're walking by each movie being filmed, which is clearly a reference to Singing in the Rain, because A, movies don't film on the Warner Brothers lot anymore, let me tell you that. But also
they're
B,
in Atlanta, girl.
yeah, they're in Vancouver. But also B, because it just like everything reinforces every idea that this movie has. I think this movie is so good because Damien Chazelle should have won Best Director for this movie. I have no qualms in saying that whatsoever, because the entire time you watch this movie, you were like, oh, this person just knows what this is supposed to be, and I'm just like giving into it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no.
It's so effortless in that way. You can just enjoy it and watch it. Yeah.
It's not like overindulged in like, and it's not proud of itself. It's just like,
especially a movie about LA. Like
I know,
it could just
which
go...
was so funny because all the criticism was like, LA loves movies about LA, but like those movies don't really win Oscars. They get nominated, but they don't really win. So when everyone was like, oh, we can't give it to La La Land because it's just LA sucking its own dick, it's like, well, yeah, but they don't make this is a very different type of LA movie. This movie makes fun of LA while also like being about LA. Like it's so aware of what makes LA so weird. Like she walks by that stupid mural of all the old Hollywood actors in the movie theater sitting down, and they all look weird because it's like not a great wall mural, but it's like that's the camp of LA. That it's like trying to cling to this old thing that was just a facade to begin with, because it's really just like an old West town on the coast. And now it's like this, it's just fascinating. LA is like so interesting to me. I would never live there.
It felt, I think maybe we're all people who like don't want to move to LA. And I felt like this movie told me about why people like it without trying to convince me that I should be one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also not looking down on the people who want to make that happen.
It's so loving to everybody involved. Like there's no, I really genuinely, it's not a cynical movie in any way. And like some people may have qualms with that because they think it's a little too saccharine, and I understand that. I grew up in movie musicals, so obviously I have no problem with saccharine sweet anything.
Yeah.
But I even don't think it's like too sweet of a film. Like the way it ends is so profound as well.
Yeah.
We
Right.
have to talk about art. We have to talk about commerce and the meeting of the two.
Art.
Molly, you may have thoughts on art, seeing as how you have a doctorate in the idea of art. So
That's what says on my degree, the idea of art.
the idea of art, capital A, the platonic ideal of art.
Can I tell you quickly about my nephew reading me For Filth the other day?
Oh no.
We were talking about something related to like medicine, and I said like, I think it's this, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. And then I said like, well, I am, but like not that kind. And my nephew was, well, you're not anything yet because you don't have a job.
And you're taking him to Disneyland?
It was really that he was like confused about that comment because he like doesn't know that people can be non-medicine doctors, right?
Yes,
and so he
yeah.
was like trying to put it together. So that was like his genuine like, do you mean like you're not a doctor yet because like you didn't get the job yet as a doctor? Like he was saying it
Yeah.
as like an actual question, but it cut me to the core, y'all.
Thank you for engaging in my joke as if I didn't understand what your nephew meant. I do think that's very funny. Let me explain why it's funny, Adam.
Was your brother and sister-in-law there, and were they just like, oh?
My sister-in-law was there, and yeah, there was we sort of had a moment together. It was great.
That's very funny. Kids are great.
Kids are great. Love them. What was the question? Oh, do I have
Thoughts
thoughts on
on
art?
art.
and
Thoughts on
comments?
Thoughts on art? Art thoughts, Molly? Thoughts about art and how to make money in art?
I certainly don't have any advice for that. I mean, I think actually I was just going to say what you said earlier on this topic of RJ, you were talking about like debriefing with your therapist and the pressure that like you have to somehow your art has to make money.
Yeah.
Success, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is really a nice thing. I referenced this, I think, before we started recording, that because I'm job hunting, I think that I am feeling a lot of that pressure right now of like, am I worthless to society right now because I don't have a job yet? And that's not true. And that's not a measure of whether or not I did something successfully. I've actually had this weird thing that I've been going through recently of like, I almost feel like really embarrassed that I have a PhD, which is like not an emotion that I expected before defending it. But I think it's coming from a place of like, but if I don't do anything with it, that like, then it'll be like embarrassing that I pursued something. But that's like not true. It doesn't take away from what I've accomplished thus far if I like don't use it in exactly the way that's expected or whatever. So I do think that it's beautiful, the idea that they don't have to be successful, but then they are both successful. So it's really not like the movie's not about that. But I think that the idea that your pursuit of this dream has to be so absolute that it comes at the sacrifice of other things in your life, like, you know, love and personal fulfillment in that way is like very real. And I say that as a person who's like not sure that I want the partnership part of life because I like kind of, at least right now, I'm like not ready to give up on the idea that I like could move anywhere for a job and like I can pursue what I want to do and not feel beholden to another person. So I like, I don't say it lightly, like I don't say it as if to say like, well, obviously everyone needs to fall in love, so like that's the right choice. I don't necessarily think it is, and I appreciated the acknowledgement of that because I also think that like millennials, like other young people, I think that that's something a lot of people have to face to some extent, even if you're not an artist, right? That like it's a more absolute dedication and like it's expected to bleed into more of your life if you're pursuing art. But the idea that sometimes that partnership and family and stability can be at odds with the idea of having everything you want in like a professional context is something that I'm guessing a lot of people could connect to, and I'm guessing that's one reason it was so successful. Everyone seems sort of invested in movies about fame and interested in movies about fame, even if they're not going to be famous or like pursuing anything that would make them famous. But I wonder if people connected to the messages that were more broadly about like the conflict between your passion or career and
a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, this movie, I think, like, is very smart in the way it engages. So I like that they do the opposite things at the same time. So she's working this barista job on the Warner Brothers lot, which is like, could you imagine? Could you imagine? So she's working this barista job and she wants to write this play. And he's like, you should go write your play. You should do the thing you want to do. You should follow your dreams. So
Wait, does she want to write a play or does he suggest it? I think he suggests it to her.
She was saying how she wanted to get into movies. She used to watch those movies and then would write little plays.
Yeah.
Back when she was little.
So yes, he does tell her to like.
So
write
he does
something.
her like, you should try it. And then she was like, well, I have been thinking about like this, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that happens, and I like that it's like she starts toward the dream, whereas like he overhears a conversation. I like that it's not. This is important for the fight when we get to talk about the fight, but he overhears her talking to her mom and being like, "Oh, he's figuring it out," and blah blah blah, and like he starts to realize that like maybe his beholdens to doing the thing exactly the way he wanted to do it was not like the ideal way of like making money to do the ultimate goal.
But also like because now he is in love, and so like this has now also become a new like focus in his life of like, oh well, if this is something that she wants, or like if this is really important to her for us to like stay together, then maybe there's
yeah, we have to talk about the gender dynamic of him making all those inferences, because there was an article I read that sort of said something along the lines of like her pressuring him to take the job.
She does. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's the scene in the bedroom where she like brings it up twice, where she's like, so what about this job that he's offering you or whatever? Yeah. So I guess that's the only thing that you could be like, that the article could be referring to, but at no time is it like she's nagging on him to work.
No.
Where's your get a job?
Definitely that doesn't happen. And I wanted to rewatch the scene of them in bed after he sees Keith to like try to remind myself of exactly what the lines are, but my rental had expired and I wasn't going to spend another $4 just to rewatch that one scene. But like, I feel like if anything, she tries to get him to think about it because she cares about his dream of the club. Yeah. And she knows that he needs money to open the club, but it's like not about providing for them as a couple. And he overhears her. And yeah, it's like a little awkward when she's defending him to her mom, but like, we all have parents. I'm sure we know that like you're doing the tap dance of like, I don't want to upset my parents with the way that I say it, and I don't want my partner who's going to overhear it to think, right? And so like he, I feel like, is projecting a lot onto this conversation that he overhears, to the extent that then she is like shocked at the sacrifices in terms of his art and his like genre he wants to pursue when she sees the concert. But also I hate her in the concert scene. Her level of shock at the music that he is playing seems totally uncalled for, because he looks happy in that scene.
Yeah, he like is like, it looks like he's creating some, like how he describes jazz or whatever. Like it looks like he's up there having fun creating.
It takes him a while to like see that side, but the facial expression she has is as if he got up there and like sang a love song to a different girl than her. Yeah, like she has personally been betrayed.
Yeah, like all of a sudden he was rapping.
Yeah,
and like he had like told her like we're gonna go see my jazz concert. And he just like comes out in Kiss makeup or something. But like he is clearly doing something that has jazz influence. He seems to have made peace with it. You know what I mean? And I do wish that maybe we got a little bit more of his relationship between like the money he needs for the club and the choice he makes, because it feels like it becomes in the movie very about like providing for them as a unit in a way that you know what I mean? Like, because he needs money more than she does.
Yes, I think that's the thing. Like, it is about these nuances, because she is already assuming that she's on the same wavelength as he is, where it's like, oh, so you're getting this job so that way you can get money for the club. Sure. And so she knows like, okay, that's always the long game. But for him, it's like, well, I told her that she can quit her job and pursue writing this play, so now I have to be a breadwinner to like sustain for the relationship. And he assumes that that's like, yeah, that's what we've agreed upon, where no agreement actually happened. It's just like they're so like want to tell the other person like, yeah, go pursue your dreams, but like in that pursuit just automatically makes that like contract of like, you pursuing your dreams means I do this now. And like, yep, I understand. That's what I do. But then, yeah, when it comes to blows in the dinner scene where it's like, oh, I've been doing this because I thought that's what you wanted. Like, it totally is effective because you don't even realize that until you see them slowly get more successful in their paths that drift them apart. That I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess if they actually agreed upon it in the bedroom that one time, then it wouldn't be as big of a rift because they are doing it on terms that the other person knows.
Yeah.
You know?
I think too, the thing I really like about this movie, and I think this is all like a really fascinating conversation, is that I really like this movie. So we just want to keep that in mind. I'm just kidding. No, what I was gonna say is like,
and that I only have 30 minutes left to talk about it.
and we're eating into my time.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
No, what I was gonna say is like, this movie is in conversation with other films that are like it. So, like, most recently, obviously, A Star is Born has similar themes to this film.
Yeah.
But A Star is Born is very different in that it is a movie where both people are musicians. So they're doing the same type of art. And one is on his career trajectory forward, and one is on the, like, recession of their career momentum. And that movie deals more in the conversation of jealousy and like whatever that is. And I love that this movie, it's like, when she goes to the concert and she sees him, I should say this, I do not get the feeling that she's like mad that he's like getting popular. It doesn't feel like she's like upset that all these girls are like like his music or whatever. Like, I like that the movie is not about that. It's more that it's truly like distilled to, they are concerned for each other's dreams and like their wants and goals. They just don't communicate it.
Yes, but I just think that
you don't think it's not as bad. Like, you don't think it's as bad as like if all of a sudden he started doing like commercial jingles or something like that.
I think that she feels personally betrayed that he would do anything other than the purest version of his dream. And I think that it's unhealthy that it seems like she feels like it's a personal slight somehow to not allow your partner to make compromises on his own. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like she's not respecting him as like a whole person that can make that decision for himself.
But it's so weird though, because I don't think she would feel that way unless it wasn't because it's him who like basically told her like jazz is pure, jazz is magic.
That's why they have to have him explaining jazz sequence. But more importantly, that's why the chicken on the stick like joke, quote unquote, is so important to the storyline, because it's just like an example of how stubborn he is, that jazz has to be this exact thing and he isn't malleable. Like, he has to be malleable when she gets to know him, so that when he becomes malleable, she's more thrown off, I think, not that he's like doing it, but more that like it came out of nowhere. I mean, I'm obviously giving her a lot of grace, this character that doesn't exist and isn't a real person. It didn't bump me as hard as it bumped you, I should say.
I just think that the whole dinner sequence, well, it is really amazing from like a writing and an acting standpoint, it frustrates me on like a human level that it just feels like none of this has to be a fight. Like, if both of these people would like approach each other with like genuine curiosity and like a desire to understand the other's perspective, rather than like, here are these secret resentments I've been holding about how you're pursuing your dreams, like, it feels like none of this has to be an argument, because like it's ultimately both of their choices how they want to go about pursuing their art. And I find it offensive that she is so like convinced that she knows better than he does how he should be going about pursuing his dreams. That's what I think I don't like about it.
I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. I also think you are like a very intelligent, rational person who knows how to communicate your thoughts and feelings to people. And more often than not, people don't know how to do that, especially in the arts.
Yeah. Or like
the amount of times I was screamed at as like an 8th grader in a musical because it was dress rehearsal and they were like, "I'm tired of you!" Like, it's wild. People don't know how to control their emotions.
When your work is that you have to control your emotions on a whim. Yeah.
Sure. Around children.
Yeah, but I agree. But also that like that dinner scene is just like, it definitely was like, oh, yep, I've definitely had this conversation before, like in many forms. I feel like
I also like who
Would you like to tell us
conversation?
something about your relationship?
With who, RJ?
in forms, bits and pieces
Bits and
of
pieces.
it,
Sure,
bits and
sure, sure.
pieces.
I really like that this scene.
Well, first you like this movie, so
First of all, we have to say, I don't know if it's been said yet, I do like this movie. But I really like the dinner sequence in that it starts again the journey that the scene itself takes us on, from being like, he made her dinner and it's so sweet, and he came back for a night and da-da-da. And like
he flows in. He flew in from like a tour stop.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
flew right in from a tour stop. So it's like you're like being set up for like, oh, they're long distance and they're struggling and whatever, and then he's there and he made her dinner, so you're like way up on the high again of like,
Yes.
oh my god, I love this couple, they're so awesome. And then by the end of the scene they're like screaming at each other, and the arc it does is amazing.
I mean, it's like true masterful screenwriting, like truly. I just writing in general. It doesn't even. It could be a play. It could be, and that's what great is so nice about the scene too. Is they could throw it on a stage, and it's like still perfect as is. I like that their argument through most of it. I think up until his last remark, where he's like says the comment about her being an actress, and that's where you get the like he looks
judgment.
He gets a little down on her because she has like an interest that he is not as interested in.
Yeah.
Can you? I'm so sorry. Remind me of actually what the line is.
He says, maybe you just liked me better when I was on my ass because it made you feel better about yourself.
Oh, that was heavy last 5 years vibes. I actually kind of loved it for that reason.
It's like, it's so, it's the thing you do in a fight where you're like, no, as it's coming out of your mouth, you're like, I should not say this.
It's a
this
cruel
is
thing to
such
say to
a
your
bad
partner.
thing to say.
But is there not truth to it?
No, there is. That's why it's like so brilliant. That's why every moment of this movie feels so true to these characters, because you don't disbelieve anything that's happening, even when they're flying around a planetarium, for God's sakes. I think the conversation that this movie has with like following your dreams and this fight then leading to the last sequence of this film, where in reality they have done the success that they wanted for themselves. He opened the club like he wanted to do, which was apparently Ryan Gosling's idea. It wasn't in the original script. The original script, he was just going to be like a successful musician. So his thing was he opened the club. She became like a successful actress. She's doing the movies.
I think
like,
I liked it better that there's like an actual. It makes sense for this character. There's like a little obsessive over it, where it's like that restaurant being a tapas restaurant is the symbol that this art is dying and I need to save it. Like,
well,
you know,
and it makes sense for his character because he wants to like keep it alive, and the only way to do it is not to just do art, but like create a space in which you can like help foster it.
Yeah, but it is interesting because so if we had gone with the original ending, then it would be a movie about one person achieving the dream as they imagined it, and then the other person actually changing their dream. And we get just a taste of that because he makes the club named Seb's, which was her suggestion instead of the chicken on a stick thing. So we see that he did take in like a little bit of suggestion, right? He bent just a tad.
Compromise.
But I would
centrism
also
wins again.
great.
Yeah. Being in the middle of every issue is always the right position to take. I do think that it would be cool though to have a movie that's about people compromising their dreams and finding happiness in that too.
But so this is what I was gonna say is I love in the dream sequence of them seeing the future that didn't happen, but she envisions, he envisions, they envision together. We don't really know. It's not very clear. But in this dream sequence, they aren't as successful. Like, she's an actress, but she's not like the star of the next hit movie with her face on the side of a board. She's just like a working actress doing her job. He is like a working musician. So they're both doing what they're like passionate about. Their house is a little bit more humble.
Yeah.
You know, they don't live as lavishly, but they're still happy together. And I think that is what makes that ending so poignant, is like there are multiple trajectories in your life and there's not only one that works. And I think that's the hope that this movie has, that really, like, to go back way to the beginning, like feels like that like optimism of the like Obama years. of like, and I'm so sorry to do
God,
this
get
again.
off this Obama.
I'm
here.
really sorry, but like,
Let this man rest. My God, there's not a single.
let him make his Nat Geo documentary.
My God, there is all of his hair in his head is gray. Let this man rest.
I just and
Stop
it's
bringing
not
him
it's not
up.
a comment on Obama or anything. It's just like a very specific feeling that like the country had for
Yeah.
8 years, and we just like we have reversed against it now
Yeah.
at this point,
Yeah.
and it's just
I
fascinating.
actually, do you know what? You have out textual reading to me because when I was watching the ballet sequence, was like, so it's just about like she gets to still be successful, but they also stay together. I was like, why are all her dreams still coming true in this? But I missed a lot of those little subtle cues that she like is successful, but not to the same degree that she is
Yeah.
in the
I
real
think it-
timeline.
I definitely agreed with you in the first watch. I think in this second watch, that's when we noticed, oh yeah, the house is smaller.
Well, the first watch,
Like-
I cried for the last 30 minutes.
He literally
Okay,
cried
so
this
you
entire
didn't really
sequence.
take
He
it
just
in,
couldn't-
yeah.
yeah.
I took it in the way that I was like, this is beauty,
Yeah.
but I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't contain myself. This is why I haven't watched it in so long, because I was so nervous that I was gonna have the exact same reaction and not be able to like control myself. I was fine. I cried a
You
little
were
bit
fine.
last night, but I was fine.
Yeah, like there was just a little bit more of those subtleties that we noticed. Because like even when I made the joke of like, oh, even their babysitter is attractive in the real version, and then in the imagined dream version, it's like an older person because it could presumably be like, I don't know, someone's like a relative or something, because the house like looks more like just like a normal like suburban house.
But you also have to see that in the reality as well, they also are happy. So she's happy
Yeah.
with her husband. She
Yeah.
loves her child.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a note of like, oh, they're on
Well,
the rocks or anything. There's
She-
nothing like
she
that.
loves her husband, but it's interesting that they sit next to each other in the club, and then we see the fantasy version with Ryan Gosling.
they're, like, holding
she's like
each other.
sitting
Yeah.
kind of on him, right?
Yeah.
That like one of them has to be like a compromised version of happiness, and then one
Right.
is like the passionate happiness. And so she kind of switched one for the other, but I don't think that means she's unhappy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's also something that like as you get older is like more clear of like when you are young and you're like still developing and all your hormones are like the top 10 most exciting thing that happened that day, where everything's always like
Top 10 hormones.
top 10 hormones, and we're gonna rank them here today on the pod. Testosterone.
Progesterone.
No, but like it's everything is like heightened,
Mhm.
and like as you get older, that's kind of like the most fascinating part of like learning how to like be an adult, is not just like how to pay the bills and your taxes, but it's like actually realizing that like not that you can get fulfillment from like
From
going-
not exerting 100%
from
of
like
your
going out
energy.
and like taking a walk around the park and like not listening to anything and just like being like, it's just like little things like
Yeah.
that I think is like so it's as I get older, those are the things that I'm like fascinated by.
We're so boring.
We're so boring. We're so boring. Couldn't be more boring. 6 years ago I watched this for the first time. I did not have these thoughts then. Yeah, I love the ending of this film. And I love how everything ties together. I also have to talk about the audition at some point.
I love that they just fully took the form of the Dream Ballet and just went full like
Art
showing different forms that we haven't seen in the movie yet, but not so outside of the box that you were like, whoa, this came out of nowhere. It's like, no, this was fully like believable that like this is kind of how they imagine it, from like the silhouettes to like obviously like the very like Wizard of Oz flats in like a soundstage, and then like
Them watching the reel of their
and
like,
then
the
yeah,
movie of their
watching like
lives
an old
happening.
like an old like video, very like Wonder Years almost. Like it was just like it's just picking up all of the things that they love about
Yeah, and look, I'm not a lover of dream ballets, but it is used so well here. It is
So well.
contributing to the plot rather
Yeah.
than like reflecting back on it or
Yes.
just
not a recap, not an
recapping. I don't know why we need a recap ballet, but the fact that it is used for this specific purpose of like exploring the other version of events, and that we couldn't have the movie without it, right? Like we
Yeah.
couldn't have the ending that we have
You
without
almost did.
that dream ballet. I almost didn't.
Molly basically did.
I swear. And when it went back to the club and the moment of her looking at him, sorry, there's like too many clubs. This is confusing
I
to the
know.
listener. It goes
Sebs.
back to the moment that she saw him playing in a restaurant.
in the restaurant.
Yes.
And because she tries to sort of say like, hey, your playing's beautiful, and he brushes her off in reality. So we cut back to that restaurant and her seeing him there, and I turned off my iPad and I was like, if this movie is like that was all a fantasy in her head about what their lives could have been, like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, none of this happened. It's all just her thinking about it as she's watching this guy play piano. I was like, I will not do this podcast anymore. I will quit.
But that's the crazy part,
because I don't think so.
It's
but
the decision
exactly
past that decision.
Yeah, it's exactly where you stop. So it literally could have been like, they could have gone either way.
Yeah.
So funny.
I do want to talk about her audition song. Here's to the dreamers who dream, aren't they gas?
Everybody dream.
dream. And I really, so this song was nominated. This and City of Stars were nominated for Best Picture, or I'm sorry, Best Song.
We are just messing up the awards, just like they did.
Just like they
did. It's cursed.
I really wanted the audition song to win because I think it's a stronger song overall.
Yeah.
I understand why the Academy chose City of Stars because it's the Academy. But I think Audition is a better song. Let's play a little bit of it and then we can talk about it.
She captured a feeling, sky with no ceiling, the sunset inside a frame. She lived in her liquor and died with a flicker. I'll always remember the flame. Here's to the ones who dream, foolish as they may seem. Here's to the hearts that here's to the mess we make. She told me a bit of madness is key to give us new colors to see. Who knows where it will lead us? And that's why they need us. So bring on the rebels, the ripples from pebbles, the painters and poets and plays. And here's to the fools who dream, crazy as they may seem. Here's to the hearts that break. Here's to the mess we make.
Audition.
So
And that's all
many
I really wanted to say.
Audition.
I love that this is the thematic, like, change of the film almost. Like, she's the first one to kind of get what she wants and also explain, like, why dreaming is important. And, like, it's kind of like what the whole movie hinges on, which is funny to me. It's not City of Stars. That's not the thematic motif of the film. That's just the musical motif.
It's very Academy to think like the song about LA is
the one
because that's the theme of the movie.
The theme of the movie.
We love LA.
Hollywood. It's actually jazz. Anyway, I just really like this song. I really love her performance in the song. I don't have really specific notes about the song, so I don't really know why I wanted to talk about it.
You just wanted it to play.
Yeah, I think that this song is the one that, watching it, I was like, I think this might be the thing that the backlash to the movie hinged on, because it is a song about, like, actually there's something admirable about this pursuit of the dream, and I see why that could feel saccharine and feel over the top and feel self-congratulatory. But I think that taking off all the pressure of, like, should this be the best picture, should it whatever, I really loved it because I loved that she doesn't want to go into the audition because she talks about how it's going to break her to not get it. And the thing that she realizes in the audition is that there was something beautiful in her pursuit of the dream, even if she doesn't get the role.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny because one of those things, like you pick up movies through cultural osmosis. And one of the things that I thought that I had heard was that she was actually not a good actress. And so I thought she wasn't going to get the part. Like, that's where I thought this was all going.
Yeah. That
Because
it was
of
just another one. Yeah.
my kind of misunderstanding of what the movie was about. And I don't know now if I didn't hear that right or if people are just haters, because like nothing in the text of this movie says that, unless people are just trying to read Emma Stone. Nothing
I know,
in the text
that's
of
the
this movie
thing.
tells me she's a bad actress.
All of her auditions, even though those are terrible material, I was like, she is acting, like she is fully acting.
And like,
in
what do you
these.
expect from somebody out of like one line in it? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
people are
exactly.
judgmental.
Yeah.
I'm sure that person's had an amazing career, and that's why they said it.
Yeah, screw you.
But also, she's kind of doing like she's auditioning. It's like the best one is when she's
The
like the teacher and she goes, "No, Jamal, you be tripping." I mean, that's like
So funny.
so funny. Also,
It's so funny.
it's so funny. It's so good that she's like chasing the perp. It's so funny. It's so funny, but it's also like, yeah, you're not getting good material. Like, you're working with like nothing. Like,
Yeah.
what are
Yeah.
you supposed to audition with?
For like bit parts, like, yeah, there's nothing that tells us
walk
whether
on.
she's good
Yeah.
until the end, really. Anyway, I love the idea that dramatically what happens in that room is that she realizes that her pursuit of the dream was worth it, whether she gets the role or not. I do think that what I also find to be a flaw of Seb's is that, and this is again, like, I think intentional, but he's like, he's so delusional about like her chances too, that I was like really annoyed with him in the scene after where he's like, "You're gonna get it." And I was like, okay, but she like really might not, like really is a very good chance she won't. And like, I would find that really obnoxious in a partner if I was trying to be like, let me process my feelings about this. And they were like, well, simply good things will happen, so you don't need to worry about it. I'd be like, that's not true. So like, not helpful. So
And statistically, I have a lot to show you that it's not true.
Yes, the track record is not good. Yeah. I think
I wish. Sorry, I think
Yeah, go ahead,
I
go
wish maybe in that then follow up scene there had been a little bit more of her saying like, "Thanks
defending herself
for-"
a little bit more of like, it's okay, like, or,
Yeah, and like, thanks for convincing me to come back in, because I don't know though. I wouldn't like if she like articulated, "Here's what I learned in the course of the song." Like, let me say it
Yeah.
as well in text, because I only sang it before. But I don't know. Yeah.
there is a little bit of like, yes, obviously you want your partner to be a cheerleader, and I think like that Seb does a great job of that. But yeah, there is that sense of like, he doesn't understand the exact experience that Mia is going through, and even if you tried to explain it, he won't ever understand.
Right. It's a little bit wife guy. Am I right, Ned Fulmer?
Oh, well, now we're transitioning.
Now
Current events.
see, this is what you get when we record like 2 weeks
Live.
when we record closer to episode drop.
Live on Saturday night
See?
at Showgays, a movie musical pod.
Yeah, we know.
Our moms are so confused right now.
Oh my god, I have no idea what's going on. Just skip forward 30 seconds.
Just skip forward. Just Google it. I don't, or whatever. Yeah, the thing about like the whole audition thing being a little saccharine, I think even when I remember when I first watched it, was the idea that like the audition or the gig that may finally like get her is the one that's like the most theater, obviously, the most like, don't act, just tell us a story. And it's like, at the time I was like, how often does this actually happen in Hollywood? Like, is this actually real?
Let us
like,
say quickly, doing a one-woman show, never a good idea. Never the right call. Never the way that you're going to advance your career. I mean, is there
definitely
anything
not in
you would
LA.
Definitely not in
less
LA.
like to go to than somebody who's like, I've been struggling with my acting career, so I decided to
So
do a
to
whole
do a
one-woman
show
show.
about it.
There's nothing I would less like to see. And a casting director sitting through an entire one-woman show just to like check it out. I
for
liked that
them.
a lot of this movie felt realistic, and it felt like a good balance between like the heightened romanticism and fantasy and like what it would really be like to be in LA. But the idea that a casting director came to that show, absolutely ridiculous.
I know, when you literally
That's the thing is, I like that we don't see any of the one-woman show, because then in my head I get to imagine that she is like incredible or whatever, or there's something there.
But why would you invest the time as a casting director to go see this
Because her
one-woman
friend
show?
dragged her. Like it doesn't like I can believe it because I didn't see it. Like that's all. It's the very Greek theater thing.
For
of being
me,
like,
it was always
sure,
like,
Medea killed her kids off stage. I don't know.
For me, it was always like, because the project specifically is they're like looking for actresses who can tell a story. I can imagine in my mind that like, okay, go to these go look for one-woman shows, go look for storytelling shows.
And I think that we're also supposed to understand it's not like a big movie, right? It's like they have funding to do this whole big project, but it's like they're also kind of indie, kind of.
I don't think
right. So it's kind of the. I mean, I'm not even saying blockbuster. I'm saying like maybe not even studio backed, right? So it's like this is just the thing that gets her, the thing that gets her, the thing that gets her, the thing, right? Yeah. So then I guess I guess I just sort of wish that they had it be like a little bit better attended, so that it was
more believable. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, but then I guess I was gonna say it would be nice if it was like, not that it'd be like a huge showing, but like she got an okay audience, but he wasn't there. But then I guess I wouldn't like that, because then it would be like, oh, I quit acting because my boyfriend didn't come, which that would be dumb. So I guess I do like that it's so sparsely attended.
Did you like the two punch of that plus her hearing like people talk about, like dudes talking about it on the way out, and then him not showing up? Well, I mean, that was always there, but
yeah, I do like it, because I guess that makes it about, I needed you here because I did this really vulnerable thing, and I needed that buffer of that person who would have said nice things to me about it, even when it was not well received.
His sister's
and that,
in the
I
audience.
think, is the most important thing.
Yeah,
his sister's in the audience, which is crazy. I love that like practically nobody's there, and that he doesn't show up, because I think there is a world in which he did come, that she felt okay enough to keep going, but it's the like double whammy for her that like she doesn't feel like she has any support, because
you have
like,
to fully give up on it. Yeah,
I think in cities like LA, in bigger cities where a lot of people come, it's more of a transient place. If you don't find like a group of friends, and it's very hard to do like as an adult after like you're in a school environment where you're like,
I
forced
wouldn't
to be
know.
around
I have
people.
a lot of friends, so
yeah, the whales. The whales, the dolphins, the
penguins playing the band, the dancing penguins.
I mean, like, her roommates don't come. They don't.
No,
come
they were there. The three girls.
Yeah, I thought that they were.
There were the three on the right, and then the sister on the left.
Oh, I didn't notice them, because
the big casting director in the back,
and then
and then the casting
director in the back, secretly.
Yeah,
I loved her. I loved how she reacted to him, of just like, things are literally just coming out, like, I can't pay for this theater. And then that's
the part of art that's like, if I like, you put money into it and then you get nothing out of it, it's like, you start to feel like you're drowning.
And then like the full decision of like, I'm done, and not even have to explain what that means. It's like, no, I'm just done.
I'm going home. Home.
Oh.
I love another thing about this movie that I love, because I do like this movie, to be clear. I love that this movie starts with him honking at her, and then his bit is that he like honks outside, and then he does it one final time when he like picks her up, or like tells her about
that he's like, I found you because it was the house across from the library.
When she was like, how'd you find me? House across the library. Like, it's so easy. Like, obviously I know because I listened to you.
And it makes the honking make all the more sense why they made that part of his character, because at first I was sort of like, that seems like a little disrespectful for like how this guy is in general.
Just keep honking,
but the fact that that's his thing, and then because he knows it's one of the houses across from the library, right? So he has to do something like big and loud.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's so
Hollywood magic, baby.
Or like even the like little things. There's so many little moments in this movie of just them engaging with each other, where like one of them is like when he goes to pick her up the next morning, he shows up a couple minutes late, and she's not there, so he's about to leave, and then she tries to grab the door, and he like is like, oh. And then she's like, I just got us coffee. And he's like, oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely. It's just like, they're so good together. And they'd already done 2 movies before this. So like, they already had built-in chemistry. But it's just like, it must be like what watching Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks in like You've Got Mail must have felt like in 1997. Like, it would have been like.
Now, you could just watch the movie now.
Well, just like
when people first saw it and they're like, oh, it's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were in Crazy Stupid Love, and what's the other thing they were in?
They did what is it called? Gangster Squad.
Gangster Squad, I
Something
think is
like
what
that.
it's not
Okay.
like a
It was a
well-known
new.
movie,
It was one
but
of those noir movie.
Yeah,
things.
Crazy
Yeah.
Stupid Love is good though if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many moments like that in this movie of just them being like they work well. That's like why it's like so good and so
I
sad
mean,
that
the
they don't
whole
work out.
sequence of her watching him in the '80s party, and like her being like, "Play Iran," and then just fully
Damn.
mocking her, knowing that he recognized her, and she's just like, "Great, I can fully relish in this situation," and it's so funny.
I will say that I don't know 80s culture enough to like I didn't understand until the scene after. I was like, so is that like a good or a bad thing for her to request? Like I didn't really get what was happening.
I think just the
I'm glad
idea
they
of like
explained it, yeah.
that song is truly the farthest away from his jazz moment. So I think it's more just like take that. But also like you watch the scene and you're like, oh, Emma Stone literally had a grip on like teen comedies before this point because she does this so well. Like it is just
it
like
is like a funny moment of like it's almost like there's like here's one scene of Emma Stone as you're used to seeing her.
yes.
Now she's not doing that for the rest of the movie.
She's not
Yeah.
gonna do this for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
It's so good. I love it when they do that.
She is Emma Stone is undoubtedly, if we're playing the game of star or actress, she is both star and actress.
Yeah.
Wow. High praise.
High praise. High praise. Any final thoughts? Are there any songs we need to listen to? I'm gonna probably just play the entire planetarium dance sequence on a loop in the background of the whole episode.
I remembered, Adam, when we first watched this movie and that when all of a sudden they started floating, it was like
I
Adam
was
started
gone.
like he literally was like like in the movie audibly and like shook. And
Yeah, it was a lot.
yeah.
It was a lot.
Because I mean like that was everything before that was like more grounded in realism. Like obviously there was
Yeah.
like the party sequence and the dancing, but like this was the first time you're like, oh, this is how you're explaining how they're like gonna fall in love, and it's just like
Speaking of realism though, did they break into the Griffith Observatory? Like how are they there with no one else?
Is
don't
that
know.
so? I've never seen Rebel Without a Cause, but is that what happens there? And so was this just a full like let's just make the movie, you know, because they couldn't watch it?
I mean, they recreate the shot of them pulling
Going
up to
in,
the
yeah.
observatory from Rebel Without a Cause that they just watched in the movie theater.
Okay, gotcha.
In the second watch, I interpreted it as like, no, it's probably just open, but we're just seeing it in their lens where it's like no
Molly.
one is here but them.
It's
I wish they
lighting.
had told us that.
This movie is
Oh.
so good at changing the lighting to be like, and now it's now a thing that's happening. And I looked at RJ and I was like, it has to be lighting. It's lighting. When you go into a song, you go into a dance number, you go into a moment that like we're leaving reality as we know it. You have to do with lighting. Period.
Period.
All right. Well,
We've established the rules.
He's cracked into the safe that is Merm, and he has figured out the key.
Do we have
I guess
anything
I
to
will
say on
say-
jazz
Oh,
and the white savior complex?
well, before we do that, just quickly, I also love when they in the ballet sequence they're dancing, and then it's the just black and the stars, and it was very Fred and Ginger. It was beautiful.
Yes.
Jazz.
Jazz.
To jazz.
Molly, do you like jazz? Or
I
was
do like jazz.
Okay, I was like, or is jazz part of the big?
Oh no! Jazz
rift?
is pre the rift.
Pre-rift.
My mom is the one that doesn't like jazz.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's too beatniky for her.
Yeah.
I would not. I probably would not like going. Our deal is we do jazz, and you like will not be talking over the songs. Like I do kind of like jazz as like a background genre,
Yes.
or as a genre that's pulled from to do musical theater songs.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't say I'm like a hardcore jazz person, but I would say that I like jazz on the whole. I did read a couple things for this podcast, and one of them was about like its representation of jazz, and I thought about reading it and then I didn't, and so I'm feeling not super prepared for the conversation on it, other than I know that there was criticism of the movie at the time because it's a white guy who's the jazz musician, and that the movie didn't really acknowledge jazz's heritage as specifically a Black American art form.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the gist of it. While I was doing my research
The gist
today,
and the jazz.
the gist of
the
the jazz,
Yeah.
Mhm.
the jast. I noticed that people had similar complaints about Whiplash because it also deals in jazz, but I think because fewer people it deals in jazz.
I'm sorry, I only deal in jazz.
Do you take Amex? No, I take jazz.
I only take jazz.
Oh my god.
So I think similar complaints were levied at Whiplash, but because it wasn't as big of a film, it kind of didn't get the megaphone that it ended up with La La Land, which was like a real contender.
It became that, that became the conversation.
And I think that there are obviously valid critiques, and again, I like this movie too much, so I shouldn't be the one to discuss them because I don't want anyone to think that I'm calling their bluff or saying it's untrue, but it at this point, looking back on it, it feels to me similarly to when we discussed the colorism debate of In the Heights, of something that I think was a flashpoint in the moment and is an act of criticism, but I think got overblown, much like the hype for the movie of Both Degrees was like overblown. So I do think there obviously is like a problem in the fact that like the main character is this white guy who like is convinced. I don't know if that's really supported textually, to be honest, but like his idea is that he's going to save jazz. And by being able to complete his dream, he kind of does save jazz, quote unquote. I mean, I don't know.
I think
that's really all I can say about it.
It's hard because the movie does a really good job of obviously like honoring jazz, giving jazz like, this is why it's important, this is why it's a beautiful art form, with or without the the jazz-splaining scene that she does, and even to the extent like the jazz-splaining that John Legend gives about like this is his version of saving jazz is by like making it like revolutionary by like,
which I thought was like a really compelling argument from that character,
because he's like, I know what you think of like those guys that you love so much are revolutionaries, and like that's what we're trying to do. You've become a traditionalist because you love them so much that you want it to.
Their song slaps.
I know.
Loved
so
it.
good.
We can start a fight.
Let's hear a little bit of that song.
We can start a fight.
I don't know what your name is, but I like it. I've been thinking about some things I want to try. I don't know what you came to do, but I want to do it with you. And I just know I feel so good tonight. Oh, if we keep on dancing, take the rhythm to new heights. Feel the heat of passion, baby. Light up the night. We can start a fire. Come on, let it burn, baby. We can start a fire. Let the
The bigger, like, obviously when you pull back where it's like, okay, but you can't have an appreciation of this art form without being able to like respect where it came from. Okay, sure, yes, that's valid, but like it's that, is that then the bigger problem, that like we can't dive into and tell like a point of view of that without having to tell the entire story? Or is that like how we kind of equate to like stories about other people of color, of like, it can't, this one thing about jazz can't be the movie to explain everything about jazz? And I think also there is, I feel like there's like character and story like justification that he is white, because obviously everyone that he interacts with in the jazz music industry is black, and they kind of are all poking and winking and making fun of him throughout. And it's like, you are on this crusade to like save us. Okay, you do you, like let us know when the club is open so we can play. Like there's like a bit of like winking feeling, like people we know, and then that stubbornness, because he doesn't understand like kind of like like what that plight is or whatever, becomes part of his character, that he is a stubborn person.
I guess the place where I think the criticism might be overblown is that, to me, the story is about jazz as how it informs his character and not about jazz as a genre. Right? I don't feel like this is a movie about
Teaching
jazz
jazz,
and
yeah.
saving it. It's about like, can this one guy find the appropriate amount of flexibility where he like maintains what's important to him, but also like does listen to other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
But I do think that where I find the criticism compelling is it's making me think about, I took an ethnomusicology class, which is, like the
Cool.
kind of like the context around music, right?
Yeah.
The culture and stuff around it. And I remember that there was a guy in that class with me who was a white jazz musician, and he talked a lot about his discomfort about being a white jazz musician and like awareness of that fact.
Mhm.
And I, as a person who's not particularly into jazz, don't have the same like visceral reaction to the idea of a white person playing jazz, right? The way that if someone was in that class with me and was like, hey, I'm a rapper, and he was a white guy, I would be like, that's a bit okay. Like I would have that like gut feeling, and I just don't get that gut feeling with jazz. And so I think the fact that jazz is specifically a Black art form, I think kind of has been lost over time.
Yeah.
So I can see the argument for, it's messed up that people don't even feel any sort of way about the fact that he's a white jazz musician, because we have actually forgotten that fact, and that we should do more to make sure that we don't forget that fact.
But I think that goes back into the larger point that the movie, or at least Seb's character, is making, is that like jazz is literally dying on the vine. Like it's like, it's people say its time has passed. I mean, that was like the point of Focus Features, trying to turn it being a jazz situation into rock so that it's more palatable to audiences, because with rock you probably don't need a whole scene in which a person explains rock for people to understand.
Yeah.
And like, while the scene of him explaining jazz is annoying, it's also like, it's the scene of like Remy in Ratatouille eating the grape and or like explaining to Emile when he eats the grape and the cheese at the same time. Like, this is what's so exciting about it. Like, it's a thing of like passionate people being passionate about what they're passionate
It's
about.
like when Adam talks about urban planning, and
It's just like when I talk about Denmark's incredible use of urban planning. It's just like it. And that's what the movie should have been about.
he should have been an urban planner.
That was the best time of Zoom freezing on me, because I like got like something about Remy in Ratatouille, and then it just cut to Denmark's use of urban planning.
This is what's life like in this house.
Yeah.
And honestly, in this podcast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, I just thought...
I think everything you're saying is right, but I just want to make sure that we're like super clear for the audience, because as I was listening to, I had to like kind of follow your train of thought there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that the fact that I don't have that visceral reaction is a reflection of the fact that the history of jazz has been dying. We don't know that information anymore. You're not saying, well, it's dying, so like everyone, they should be grateful to take whoever they can get.
No, yeah.
I know that that's not what you
absolutely.
intended, but I realized it could be interpreted that way.
Yes.
I just want to make sure everyone
Oh, yeah.
understands.
and even
it,
like
yeah.
relating to how the movie was made, that even that was the issue of like, will it really make an impact if it's jazz?
Yeah. I just thought it was, I think it was like the biggest thing that we needed to talk about in terms of like the quote unquote politics of the movie. So I wanted to make sure
I think
gave
we
some
would
space to that.
be disrespectful, and it would be a gaping hole in our coverage if we didn't talk about it. Yeah.
Well, RJ's the gaping hole in our coverage, so.
Oh, God. There is a child in where she's recording. Okay, so we got to keep this G.
Yep, I'm gonna play every podcast we record here out loud for my nephews. I probably should have told you that ahead of time.
Oh, I didn't let you know. So this movie has a 91% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Richard Lawson at Vanity Fair says, speaking of the Oscars, the direction and design are fabulous. I think the film's biggest asset is Miss Stone, who gives a performance of such natural intelligence and warmth that I'd have to imagine she'll be a very strong awards contender this year. She's got the musical comedy Golden Globe already in the bag at this point. But besides that cynical odds forecasting, this is simply a huge performance for Stone, who has always had an abundance of appeal, but has had trouble of late finding a role and a film worthy of her abilities. She certainly found it in Chazelle's movie, giving a star turn of the highest magnitude, while singing convincingly and dancing even. It feels like she's arrived all over again. Gosling is certainly good too, but his performance is a bit more familiar, and his singing is not up to Stone's level. Still, he and his glowing co-star once again have a witty, winning chemistry. All true, all wonderful. Molly doesn't agree.
I feel like their voices were equal. I didn't think one was better than the other.
I think she has a lot more to do vocally.
I think obviously she did more, so yeah.
Yeah, but there was no sense of like an uneven mismatch. I mean, maybe I see his point in terms of like we kind of know Gosling like a little bit as a song and dance man, so it's not as surprising from him. But gosh, he just like really he Gene Kelly'd his way right into my heart in this movie, so I really enjoyed his performance. And I also am thinking about the fact that like, what has Emma Stone done after this?
The Favorite.
The Favorite was the big one, but I feel like there was another one.
It feels a little bit like
I think
she and
Birdman was
Hathaway
after this, or was Birdman before?
I feel like Birdman was
Birdman
before.
was before. I think it was 2013.
I just think that this is like Hollywood's thing of like they give an actress to some or actress they give an Oscar to an actress and she's like on the way up and they're like, but like now we've seen too much of you and we're sick of you.
Yes,
you know,
like, you need to cool it. Yeah, and it's only happens to the women.
Yep.
I mean, I do think it's crazy that I don't think a man has ever won a Best Actor. I don't think there's ever been a man who won an acting Oscar for a musical, and yet women are almost always nominated for a musical. Anytime there's like a really good awards musical that happens, it's like, oh, the lead woman has been nominated.
I think the last one that I can remember was Eddie Murphy in Dreamgirls.
She obviously did Cruella, which we all forgot about.
Oh yeah,
and then obviously, Tony Gray,
Battle of the Sexes.
Battle of
was
the
right
Sexes.
after.
Okay. That was like the big one, and I don't think did she get nominated? I think she did.
So maybe that was her.
It became more of like
gonna have a dramatic career movie, and then it was like not a huge success, and so she kind of went back to more comedy drama type things. Yeah.
I mean, don't forget about The Croods. Everybody's favorite animated film. Todd McCarthy from The Hollywood Reporter said, all the same, for Chazelle to be able to pull this off the way he has is something close to remarkable. The director's feel for a classic, but for all intents and purposes, discarded genre format is distinctive and intense. He really knows how to stage and frame dance and lyrical movement, to transition smoothly from conventional to musical scenes, to turn naturalistic settings into alluring fantasy backdrops for set pieces, and to breathe new life into what many would consider cobwebbed cliches. Great. Right on the money, Todd. But finally, Owen Gleiberman at Variety says, as their fortunes start to seesaw, the film acquires some of the stormy turbulence of A Star is Born, as well as glimmers of the doubt and disconnection of The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is one of the French films that Damien was inspired by.
Gotcha.
All of which can feel just a bit discordant. Chazelle wants to make a musical that celebrates the classic Hollywood vision of love as spiritual perfection, but he also wants to make an Age of Alienation love story that undercuts the old simplicities. He has the right to do both. That's what Moulin Rouge did. But if Chazelle sticks to the bittersweet truth of the story he's telling, there's a part of you that wants to see him shoot the works, to make good on that opening sequence by topping it. La La Land isn't a masterpiece, and on some level it wants to be. Yet, it's an elating ramble of a movie, ardent and full of feeling, passionate, but also exquisitely controlled. It winds up swimming in melancholy, yet its most convincing pleasures are the moments when it lifts the audience into a state of old movie exultation, leading us to think, what a glorious feeling, I'm happy again.
I'm not sure if he likes the movie or not based on all of that.
I don't know if he did either. That's why I thought it was like an interesting review. I think reading the whole review, I think he's pretty positive on it. But I think a lot of the biggest criticism in terms of like criticisms that of like things, like everybody was pretty like, this is good. But their overall thing, I think, was like, it gets a little slow in the middle. And it's a little big. It's a little like, for them, a lot of them, it felt like it was, it wasn't as contained as it could or should be, I think, which I don't necessarily agree with, but.
Yeah, I disagree with that, definitely. Yeah.
And I will say in the second watch, it didn't feel as slow as I feared it was going to be on my rewatch. Because I did remember being like, I know it slows down because it just like gets
it has
real.
To get into the drama, yeah.
I just think also like it wants to be a masterpiece is like, says who?
Yeah, relive the Obama years and just watch it and have a good time, you know?
And then reflect on the mistakes we all made as Democrats. How dare we?
How dare us?
I really wanted to include the LA Times review because it's La La Land, so I was like, well, I should include the LA Times review. But then I got mad because it was like, one of the, what did it say? It said something so stupid that I was like, I'm not engaging with this. And now I don't remember what it was. But the other one I saw, so that was a great story. I'm glad I brought it up. The other one I saw was this person who was like reviewing it, and I don't remember which publication it was for. I should have written it down. But she was the review like quote that they had on Rotten Tomatoes, which is what I look at before I click into the full review, was like, this movie is but like is an homage to an era of Hollywood in which Black people weren't even really allowed to participate. So for that, it like we can find fault in it. And I was like, I also don't know how much I can engage with this because like I don't know. I don't know if I'm able to engage with that because I run a movie musical podcast. So I think I'm just not the person to discuss this with. But yeah.
I mean, look, all nostalgia you can make the same argument for, basically,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there's a limit. I think there's a limitation to how much we should engage and like revel in nostalgia for that reason. But I don't feel that this movie is the worst offender, especially because it's about that being a flaw in the characters as much as it's something that's being celebrated, right?
Yeah,
If it were just a movie that was like, and they're right, things were perfect in the 20s, like then I'd feel differently about it. But that's
And
not.
we didn't do anything wrong, so we're bringing
never done
back
a
blackface
single thing
in
wrong.
La La Land. Like,
Yeah.
my God.
So it doesn't feel that way to me. It doesn't feel like it's overly romanticizing a time that, you know, included a lot of bigotry. So.
I remembered what the LA Times review made me mad about. He said it was a little long and they could have easily shaved the last 10 minutes off the film. And I was like,
Wow, LA is trash. You're right.
Put those two takes together and just layer over our two reactions to the how dare you talk about the only good dream ballet that way.
it's such
Only
a
good
crazy
dream ballet ever.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy take. I also don't feel that the movie's that long. It's 2 hours and 8 minutes.
No. It's nearly as long as a trip to San Diego.
Right.
Nearly. Just...
Anyway. Well, what are the people on Letterboxd saying? This is where we need to, reach out and see what the thoughts are of the public. Not these high elites in their LA Times offices writing about the last 10 minutes of La La Land being bad. Lucy gave it 5 stars and said, this cured my depression and brought it back full force in the span of 2 hours. This is all going to be the same for each of these, by the way. Muriel gave it 5 stars and said, La La Land makes me want to be alive for 1 hour and 50 minutes. Then Sebastian says, welcome to Sebs, and it makes me want to be dead. And then Matthew gave it 5 stars and said, sing it in the pain.
I think these people maybe didn't understand the sweet part of the bittersweet ending.
Yeah. They're all 16. They'll come to them later. Yeah. Before we move on to the closer, we have to discuss who the VIP is.
MVP. You do this all the time.
What did I say?
VIP.
Oh.
Very important person.
Very important player. Before we move on to the closer, we have to discuss who's the MVP. I'm going to go first. I think it's Damien Chazelle, which is crazy, but I guess it's not that crazy, but I think it's Damien Chazelle. Especially because he also wrote it.
Yeah. I'm going for the Goss. Ryan Gosling is my MVP.
I think we're going to officially have 3 different answers.
And I am going for Emma Stone. She is literally so charming. This woman can act to a rock, and the rock would fall in love with her. Like, she can have chemistry with anyone. It's amazing.
But she doesn't have to because she's opposite Ryan Gosling. So I don't think she had to work that hard.
That's true. That's the thing. She was like, oh, we're just playing. Like, you could tell that they were just having fun. And like, this is literally the best job in the world to just play with someone that I know and can trust.
There was this really sweet story. Mark Platt said that like...
Who? Ew.
Ben's financier said that on the last day of shooting... Damien didn't call rap. That's a rap. And so he grabbed a handheld and started shooting the sunset to be like, oh, I think we can use this. And then Mark was like, I realized that he just didn't want the production to end. Like he wanted to keep going. And so once the sun finally went down, he had to be like, Damien, you have to call it a rap. It's done. Which is very sweet. And then he helped edit the movie for a year.
Damien?
Yeah. He was sat in the editor's room with the editor, which is crazy.
That
and then he
could be dedication, but also could be micromanagement.
Yeah. And then he made First Man, which is a very different film that is not nearly as good. So,
yeah. If you like Ryan Gosling, but you're like, no charm. I want you to be super stoic.
I want you to be an introvert.
Fully introvert. Watch First Man.
Like
that is
Lars
the movie
the
for
girl?
You. Yeah. But like, no.
Claire Foy. If you want to see Claire Foy not do a really good American accent, First Man's the movie for you.
Okay.
Molly, what's your closer?
Firstly, where's my congratulations for remembering
For
the
having
closer,
one
especially
and
after all
having a
this
visual
time.
aid on the
Visual
Google
aid.
Doc.
I did quite a bit of googling
Molly, you
and
haven't
replaying
done
scenes.
this since
The ladies
the
from
ladies in
was that Singing in the Rain?
no.
Sing in the Rain.
Oh, was
it?
it?
Was
Was
it
it
was
Singing?
because it was the cast, the All Stars
Yes.
Oh,
cast
yes.
in the
six women.
yeah. Okay. I looked up like I had to remember it. I wrote it down. Okay, so at the end of the movie, as Ryan Gosling's going into his jazz club, we see a poster for a new movie coming out with Mia Dolan, which is how we know, okay, yeah, she's become this big success. It kind of confirms for us, as we've suspected, that she's now this big star. And the poster just says Eleanor, and then it's a shot of her face. It has kind of a mod, I would say, aesthetic to it. And so what I think would be fun is for us to all pitch the movie Eleanor
What's that rom-com
to
with
each
Renee
other.
Zellweger?
Down with Love.
Down with Love. It looks like that.
Yeah. So everyone has to pretend that you have to have an elevator pitch to movie producers to fund your movie
Mark
Eleanor.
Platt.
What do you think is the hook on it based off of the visual information we have about the movie?
Well, if I'm pitching to Mark Platt, I'm gonna say we've got a great role for Ben in it. He's gonna be a star. No, what would I? Let's see.
Mine would be it is an Eleanor Roosevelt movie, and
Oh.
she just finds out that FDR Teddy. FDR.
This is the '60s.
Yes, this is the 60s.
I don't know which one you're referencing because
FDR.
both of them are
But it's
dead.
FDR. Yeah. Eleanor Roosevelt
Yeah.
in
Oh.
in the prime of their presidency finds out he's
Are
having
they
an affair
cousins?
or he's having an
No, she knew
affair
that.
or yeah, he knew that. Or something like that. Or she yearns because isn't like this TV show on Showtime is like about she may have had like a secret like love affair with a woman. So
Oh
she
yeah, that Showtime did not invent that. That's
oh, that's the thing.
that's a long piece of speculation. Yeah.
So it's about that, and she yearns and longs for a time where she could be a lesbian, and then she wakes up one day, and all of a sudden she is in the 60s.
The 60s? That's
and
the
then-
time that you can be a lesbian? We solved it in the 60s,
In a more-
y'all.
in a
It's
more-
fine.
And so now she's like, wow, she's
turned
learning.
into the '60s, and she looks beautiful now.
She
'cause she's
she
Emma Stone.
yeah, she like wakes up and she's like, oh my god, what is
She
this
doesn't
new?
have horse teeth anymore.
Yeah, and so it's like a little, a little bit like
Roosevelt.
it's a little what is that movie? What is that series where she time travels and she's like World War II? She's a World War II.
Outlander?
Time Traveler's Wife?
Outlander. It's
Oh,
very Outlander where she time travels into a new time where she can like
but no rape.
no rape. But like she fully lives as like a mod girl in the 60s, but then has to go back in time to, be the first lady.
So I'm gonna be really annoying, and I'm gonna say that I would guess just based on this image alone, it's like she's the Twiggy. She's like a model in the '60s. She's Twiggy.
Like a Twiggy.
Okay, but
Twiggy.
what's
Eleanor.
and
What's
the
movie?
plot
It's just
is
her.
It follows her around.
It's very like Valley of the Dolls, just like see what life is like
Yeah.
as a model.
Yeah.
here's my pitch.
Okay.
What if we saw a James Bond movie from the perspective of the Bond girl?
Oh. That's
So-
very good.
James thinks that he's the one making all the decisions, but he doesn't realize that there's another spy on the other end of his relationship who's playing him just as much.
And it's Eleanor.
And her name is Eleanor.
Rigby. It's across
It's
the
across the
universe.
that's the pitch. It's across the universe. We're like, that movie didn't have an Eleanor.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
found
they
her.
didn't play Eleanor Rigby, did they?
They had a lot of names that they didn't pick, but yeah, they
Yeah.
still chose
Yeah.
the ones they chose.
Anyway, so Mr. and Mrs. Smith in a mod James Bond
mod.
camp.
Austin Powers
setting.
without the gender
Austin
stuff.
Powers meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Okay.
Great.
I can
No
go with that.
notes.
No notes.
Ding. Your movie's funded.
So, listeners, tell us which movie excited you the most. You can tweet. You can send an
Tweet.
email.
Send an email because RJ's going to fix the link.
Because we finally fixed the
now.
link that you can send emails.
Excellent.
Tell us what movie you'd pitch.
I will also have in the show notes, I realized listening back to some old episodes that there were several times when I promised to link something in the show notes and didn't do it. And so I'm
That's what
going to
this
have a
is, 'cause
catch
I was-
up
Oh, I
of
see
some
it.
citations of things that I forgot to include in previous show
I was
notes.
like,
And
oh,
I
I'm so
apologize. I know the listeners are like, they're just devastated that they've been
They didn't
missing
have
out on
the
some of those.
references.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it's not entirely Molly's fault. It may be mine for not
just
even
doesn't look-
having anything ready the night before.
I mean, I'm not going to say that, but
Maybe
No
just
one's getting paid for this, so
maybe just cross
please
reference.
sponsor our podcast.
please sponsor our podcast.
I literally saw this and was like, wow, there's a connection to pirates and cabaret in La La Land. I don't think I saw those references.
RJ this whole time has been like, when is she going
When
to
is she
bring
gonna
up
talk
the
about
cabaret
cabaret?
reference?
I mean, she did. I mean, Adam already did. She
Well,
got the job because
do
of
you
cabaret.
want? Do you want it? I can give you the reference. He's the Damien
Cabaret?
Chazelle won for a musical, and the last director to win Best Director for a musical was
Bob Fosse.
Bob Fosse.
Robert Fosse.
Roberto Foce.
Okay, what about pirates? What's the connection with Pirates of Penzance? Flats.
Flats.
Painted flats
everywhere.
everywhere.
Painted flats.
Yeah.
Yep. Operetta was like a revolutionary form. Much the same
That's
way
fallen
that
out of
John
favor,
Legends,
much like jazz.
pop jazz. Yeah.
Yeah, operetta is the pop jazz. Yeah, absolutely.
Operetta really. Everyone always says it's the pop jazz of its time. That's kind of what it's known for.
That's kind of what she's famous for.
Mhm.
Miss Operetta.
Well,
Well,
Molly, have fun in San Diego in your new life there.
Is this the last episode of the podcast? Or you're not going to
Bye.
talk to me anymore?
No, we're just,
We
wishing
wish
you
you well on everything you do in the rest of
Wishing you
your
well on
life.
everything you
And
do.
okay,
Thank
great.
you so much for helping. For the listeners, we're gearing up for a for end of the year awards. So if you have any,
Yeah, if you also want to tweet or email us about
and email
categories
fun
you would like us to
categories.
consider or anything.
yeah, I said it in this movie. Best refrigerator goes to his blue refrigerator
Ooh,
in the
yeah.
future.
best apartment. Ryan Gosling's apartment in the
at the end of this movie.
Oh my god,
Incredible.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Usually I'm not a fan of like the motel style, like the walk up with the door and the windows like as the front, but for some reason it just looks so
That's what
That's
a lot of Southern California
Yeah.
apartments are.
yeah.
I will tell you as a person who's done some casual apartment hunting. Have you guys watched You?
no.
No.
The second season of You is set in LA, and I was texting my friend that every apartment building
Me?
that I
Looks
look
like
at reminds
You?
me of
Of you, Adam. All the first
Have
Have
remind
you
me
watched
of
You?
Have I seen
Me?
Boo.
Who's on first, Molly? You gotta tell me who's on first.
Boo.
Anyway, it's a delightful but creepy show, and it's the only show I've ever seen that depicts like middle class housing in Southern California. So every single apartment building I look at, I'm like, it does kind of look like the building in You, though.
But yeah, categories definitely best refrigerator in a movie musical to that bright
Yeah.
blue smeg. Oh, it was so pretty. Yeah. So if you have any categories for year end, if you want to pitch any campaigns, tweet at
RJ
us.
is Damien Chazelle in it right
he
now
is.
with the
Yeah.
camcorder. And the...
Well, I
Sunset.
just want to say this one more thing. Well, we really just got to get this B-roll for the Zoom. So if we just want to let the Zoom play out a little bit more.
Someone in the crowd.
We did not
There's
even
someone
talk
in
about
the
that part.
crowd. I don't know the rest of the song. Bye.
Bum 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 bum.
In a pool, in a pool, in a pool, in a pool. Thank you for listening to the best revival of a podcast, Showgays. You can find us on social media. Adam is at Adam Noecker on Twitter. RJ is at RJ Food Rocks on Instagram. And Molly is at Molly Matiny on Instagram. This episode was edited and mixed by Adam Noecker. This has been an Ampliverse production. You can find our show page and more information at theampliverse.com. If you'd like to send us your own takes on the movie we just watched, reach out to us via email and we might read it aloud on the show. Our email is showgaysmoviemusical@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to help others find the show. And now, as always, the show must go on, so stick around to hear what we're going to be watching next episode.
You've seen all kinds of movies, but you've never seen anything like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is wonderfully weird.
They're probably foreigners with ways different than our own.
It's fabulously freaky. It's a trip to transsexual Transylvania. The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Transsexual Transylvania.
The story is strange.
But tonight is the night that my beautiful creature is destined to be born!
The songs are super. The scenery is smashing. The cast is completely crazy.
This isn't the Junior Chamber of Commerce, Brad.
There's a mad scientist named Frank N. Furter.
Come up to the lab and see what's on the slab.
And Rocky, his incredible creature.
I knew he was in with a bad crowd, but it was worse than I imagined.
A sinister servant named Riff Raff.
I remember doing the Time War!
And Brad and Janet.
My name's Brad Majors.
Just a couple of clean-cut kids.
This is my fiancée, Janet Weiss.
Touch it, touch it, touch it, touch me. I wanna be dirty.
Eddie. Magenta.
When shall we return to Transylvania, huh?
Columbia. Dr. Scott.
Great Scott!
So give yourself over to absolute pleasure. See the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Discovering voices, building worlds. The Ampliverse.